She believed she was being clever. What she didn't realize was that I had already heard everything from a coworker who was disgusted by it all. I was making my own plans and preparing. Fortunately, I had enough time to cool my temper and prepare for what was to come. Everything begins tonight, just after dinner. Kayla. So that is occurring tonight? My friend Mary asked. Yes, finally. I am going to do it. I will wait till after dinner. Bring him a beer, then explain what's going to happen. I said, don't forget to be strong. He will not like it. But you must be firm. I understand. Just as we had intended. He has no choice. This is how it will be. And if he truly loves me, he will allow me to do this for my own happiness. Right. Just be ready for him to yell and resist. He'll fight it, but eventually he'll give in and accept the new reality. The key is for you to remain cool and firm. Allow him to react, and he will understand that you are in charge here. Exactly. Besides, he knows it's only temporary. Once he accepts it, he may even come to like it. Then everything will simply keep going. Are you certain about all of this? Jack can be really stubborn. Listen, Kayla, Jack loves you more than everything. Sure, he'll be upset at first, but as he settles down, he'll realize how much he loves you and will go to any length to make you happy, even this. All right, I guess you are the expert. Trust me. It took ruining 2 marriages to figure this out. However, I perfected the technique with my third. You know, my current husband? Now he is entirely under my control. He even stands beside the bed while I am with one of my partners. Sometimes I even ask him to help me freshen up afterward. Around a month. Jack will be in line too. Then you'll have the security of your marriage to Jack and the pleasure of a few other men. I finished my day and went home to make Jack's favorite dinner. When he returned home, he welcomed me with a warm, "I love you," and kissed my cheek. As usual. Despite my diligent preparation, I was still a little nervous. This was going to be a significant step forward in our marriage, but it was all worthwhile. Mary had been telling me about her other female lead relationship for quite some time. I'd witnessed firsthand how it worked for her and her spouse. He seems genuinely pleased with how their marriage had turned out. I was convinced that Jack felt the same way. Our dinner talk was pleasant. We exchanged anecdotes about our day and discussed current happenings. It was a typical evening for us. After dinner, I insisted he have a beer and rest while I cleaned up. He hesitated slightly, wanting to help, but I convinced him that I could manage it. I cleared the table and filled the dishwasher before going to get myself a glass of wine. I mentally braced myself and entered the living room for the big conversation. "Jack, sweetie, we need to chat," I began. "Of course, sweetie, what is on your mind?" "All right, Jack. I understand that this may be difficult for you to accept at this time, but I feel compelled to do so. Please remember that this is merely a temporary situation." "Okay, so what do you need? If it's so crucial to you." "Of course. So far, I'm doing everything I can to make you happy." He was handling this very well. He had not even expressed any worry. "Good. So we discussed starting a family, and I'm almost ready. But there are a few things I believe I should do first. It should just take a few months at most. Then we can focus on having children." "That's great." "Honey, so what do you need to do?" This was it. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what might be a strong reaction. "So, Jack, I need to get the remainder of my wild oats out. It is merely transitory, and then I'll be able to fully settle down and be the best wife and mother you could possibly hope for." "Okay, my darling. So far, that sounds reasonable. But how precisely are you going to plant these wild oats?" Wow. He was actually managing the situation admirably. I had expecting him to blow up for a time. "I will be seeing other men. We will still be together. And I will continue to communicate with you on a regular basis. But I'll also spend time with a few other guys to clear my mind. Keep in mind that it's only physical. You're the only one who has my heart in a few months." I'll return to you, totally prepared to be a loyal wife again. Then we can focus on having the children we have planned for. Well, Kayla, it appears that you are not seeking my approval for this, so I suppose you have already made up your mind. If that's the case, I'd like to openly state that I oppose this. If you're looking for my permission or consent, I won't give it. However, you are an adult with your own decisions to make, so I will not stop you if you believe this is essential. This was going better than I could have expected. He had not even raised his voice. Everything was delivered in a relaxed, conversational tone. Mary must be correct. Jack will finally embrace the new role I've prepared for him. So, Kayla, how exactly will this work? Are you moving out, or do you expect me to leave? Are you bringing them here or going to their home or hotel? Oh well, I decided we would both stay here. After all, we are still married. As I already stated, we will continue to be intimate. The other guys will simply be casual with you. It will be real love. I expect to travel to them from time to time, but I may bring them here on occasion. You must stay in the extra bedroom on those nights. I don't see why we should pay for a hotel room when we may use our own home. All right. Let me repeat that. This is not something I support. However, I stress that we will not be intimate while this is happening. I apologize, but this is for my own health. I'm not willing to chance contracting any infections from these folks because I don't know who they are or where they came from. Also, once you're finished and decide to come back to me, we'll have to wait till you've been tested and cleared of everything. Do whatever you feel you need to do. Do not worry about me. Well, Jack, I can't say I'm not disappointed by this. After all, I adore you and thoroughly enjoy our time together. But I understand your anxiety. I suppose I'll have to live with it. All right, sweetie. So when are you going to start these short adventures? So Mary and I plan to go to a club tomorrow night and meet up with a couple of men from work. I'm not sure what will happen, but I might bring one of them back for the night. Since you're choosing not to be intimate with me during this time, it could be easier if you just moved into the spare room for the next few months. Okay, Kayla, don't worry. I'll make sure to get in there by the time you return tomorrow night, Jack said, then returned to reading his newspaper. I couldn't believe how mature he was about this. My heart soared. Sure, he had some reservations and didn't want to get intimate right now, but he was entirely accepting of everything. He was not in the least bit angry. Mary was totally correct. In 2 months, Jack would be entirely under my supervision. Besides, I understood that this hiatus from intimacy would only be brief. In a week or so, he'd be back in my bed. Then I'd use gentle persuasion to assist him fully accept his new status as my loyal little spouse. The following day. Hello, Mary. It's Kayla. Hello, girl. So, how did things go last night? Oh my God. You would not believe how mature Jack was about everything. I anticipated him to erupt, but he didn't even raise his voice. He was quite calm and welcoming. Wow. That's great. I promised you he would come around. Do you think you'll be able to get him to watch tonight? I doubt it. Actually, I doubt I'll even recommend it. He indicated he would not be intimate with me while I was seeing other people. I'm confident that will not last long. After a week or two of relying on his own hand and knowing there's a lovely woman nearby, he'll change. He'll probably be so excited that you could tease him a little after you've been with someone else. That may be fun, given his refusal to be near to me. I went ahead and had him relocate to the spare room. He's currently packing up his belongings. He swore he'd be completely out of the ladies' bedroom before I got home tonight. However, I like how you renamed it from the master bedroom to the ladies' bedroom. I will have to start doing it myself. Oh, absolutely. Anyway, I should probably start preparing. See you at the club. All right. Bye-bye. Later that evening, Jack had made considerable work packing his belongings from my bedroom. I wasn't sure why he felt the need to box everything up when he could have simply carried it down the hall, but he stated that it would be easier this way. With fewer travels, he was able to sort through everything. He left goods he didn't need in boxes to get rid of. That made logic, but I was too busy getting ready to think about it. He did comment on how pretty I looked in my thong, garter belt, stockings, and 5-inch heels. He didn't say anything when I wore the small red cocktail dress I received for our 5th anniversary last year. I only wore it once, but I looked great. "Okay, Jack," I murmured, picking up my clutch and headed for the door. "I'm going out. I'll probably be back about 1, so you don't have to stay up. Besides, I probably won't be alone. Do not worry, sweetie. I'll be out by then." He promised. I closed the last box as I went out of the house. Something did not sit well with me. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it bothered me a little. I decided it didn't matter, so I put it out of my mind and concentrated on the pleasure and excitement that awaited me tonight. I met Mary, Larry, and Josh in the club. Larry and Josh served as client managers. Both were very gorgeous, and according to Mary and a few other girls in the office, they were well endowed, but Jack was somewhat above average. I was ready to encounter someone even larger. They were said to be not only large, but also well-versed in their resources. So Jack did move into the spare bedroom. Mary inquired when our first round arrived. Yes, he had just finished packing his belongings when I departed. He promised he'd be entirely moved out by the time I returned. I responded. "Did he really say that?" Josh asked. "Yes. When I informed him what time I'd be home," he said, and I quote, "I'll be out by then." Dan was laughed at by all 4 of us. I was thinking we could just persuade that small man to move over so we could do it next to him on the bed. Larry laughed. Perhaps after a week or 2 of working on him, I laughed. "But first, why haven't any of you asked me to dance yet?" We spent several hours dancing and drinking. I danced with both guys several times, pressing near during the slow songs, feeling their bodies against mine. Of course, their hands remained on my back for the majority of the night. Mary and I went to the ladies' room to plan how the night would conclude. After 3 games of rock, paper, scissors, it was decided that I would take Josh home while Mary would accompany Larry. The house was dark when I took Josh through the front entrance. Jack must already be in bed. That is okay. We didn't need him to be watching. I led Josh down the hallway to my room. Sure enough, Jack's belongings were gone. Perhaps I might thank him with a tiny gesture. Later. But for the time being, I had other priorities. It did not take long for us to begin undressing. Josh asked that I keep my garter belt and stockings on. I'd lost my thong a few hours ago. I was not sure if Larry or Josh had taken it, but it didn't matter. I could always purchase another. The next 2 hours were complete joy. I began with some foreplay to ensure he lasted longer. When we first started, we started as missionaries and then switched positions, with me grabbing the lead at the end of the first round. After a little respite, I regained control of the situation, changing things around to keep it interesting. I lost track of how many times I experienced that rush. It was an unforgettable event that inspired me to attempt something new with Jack for his birthday or our anniversary, something unusual to keep things interesting. The only slight disappointment was Josh's refusal to reciprocate with certain attentions. Jack always did that for me, usually several times before anything else. Josh chuckled and claimed that merely demonstrated how weak Jack was, claiming that real guys had other methods to delight a woman. We finished the night with another round of showers, followed by another in the morning. Josh then had to return home to his wife and children. So I got into my robe and went to fetch some coffee. I was a little upset because Jack hadn't made any yet. It was now past 9 o'clock, and he was typically awake by that time. I'd speak with him later about it. Really? Would it damage him to prepare coffee for breakfast after I'd been out late? That small gesture would mean far more than anything else. I pondered thanking him for relocating to the spare room after breakfasting on a bagel. I showered and dressed. With nothing planned for the day, the hot water was just what I needed to soothe my tight muscles. I chose an old pair of shorts and a t-shirt, because I was only going to be around Jack. I donned a functional bra and a comfy pair of ordinary underpants. I had just finished tying my hair into a ponytail when the phone rang. "Hey, girl," I said, realizing it was Mary. "Hello, sexy. So how was Josh last night?" "He was amazing, and everything went exactly as expected. The only little drawback was that he did not agree to one specific request. Yes, Larry will not either. You'll notice that most actual males do not do that. That's why I have a husband who is fantastic at it and never says no to my requests, even if I've previously had a little thrill elsewhere. Incredible. Jack always takes his time with me, making sure I have at least 2 memorable experiences before moving on to the next level, and he's quite excellent at it. Speaking of Jack, how did he react this morning? I am not sure. I'm a little angry, since he still appears to be sleeping. I was disappointed that he did not prepare my food and coffee this morning. I considered doing something pleasant for him as a thank you for moving into the spare room. But now, I don't believe so. Yes. Make sure he understands how dissatisfied you are and what you expect from now on. Continue to be assertive with him, but make sure to give him tiny prizes when he does well. That will push him to work even harder. I'm genuinely getting annoyed that he's still not awake. Wait a minute, while I drag his sluggish self out of bed. I walked down the hall to the spare room and knocked firmly on the door, calling his name. No response. I tried again. Still no response. I finally turned the handle and flung the door open. Oh no. I explained what had transpired. Mary asked on the phone. Jack isn't in the spare room. His clothes are not even in the closet. Hold on, I yelled, swiftly going through the house. Damn. His truck is gone, as are all of his tools. The nagging notion in the back of my mind was beginning to make sense. Oh no. I gave a gasp. What? What is it? Mary asked. Jack moved out. Now I understand what he was saying. He never indicated he'd relocate his belongings to the spare room. He merely claimed he would transfer his belongings out of my room. Then he stated he would be gone by the time I came home. I assumed he meant he was relocating to the extra room, but he actually meant he was moving out of the entire damn house. Damn. I need to call him and see where he went. That isn't right. Reaching out to him indicates weakness. You have to keep strong. Do not contact him. Let him come to you. Trust me. He's just having a small meltdown. In a few days, he will crawl back to you. This is actually a wonderful thing. You now have a motive to punish him and force him to beg you for something, to allow him to return. This speeds things up. I bet you could even let Josh or Larry get you pregnant and Jack raise the child. Are you certain? Of course. Check out what my spouse does for me. Well, I must confess that you have been correct thus far. Of course. Oh, and Larry would like to see you in the storage room at work around an hour into Monday. Will we actually get away with that? Definitely. At least half of the girls are doing it. It's so hectic that I have to stick to a timetable. I will email you the meeting time. Simply mark it as an off-site meeting. Do not worry. The boss never visits there, and everyone who needs something from that room knows to ask me first before entering. We talked a little more before hanging up. Despite everything I'd been doing, I was concerned about Jack's departure. I honestly adore him and hope to spend the rest of my life with him. Mary just made Florida sound so inviting, providing me the opportunity to try new things. Of course, I would ultimately cease seeing other guys, but Jack would always be my loving and dedicated husband. Maybe in a few years, I could work out a deal with Jack to tie him up if I agreed to stop meeting other guys. Not that I'm ready to give up everything just yet, but he doesn't need to know. Maybe I could make it a condition for him to come back, something to think about. Anyway, I wanted to rest after last night, especially since I have a long, hectic day at work tomorrow. I laughed to myself, made a simple dinner, drank a glass of wine, and went to bed. Friday a.m. I hadn't heard anything from Jack in a week. Mary reassured me that this was not surprising and that I would hear from him shortly. Furthermore, the longer he stayed away, the more conditions I might set for his return. I met Larry, Josh, and a number of other lovely guys in the storage room today, as I had every day this week. I had even scheduled a double session with Larry and Josh. It was Friday morning, and Larry, Josh, Mary, and I were conversing around the coffee maker during our break when we observed a lovely young woman arriving. She was dressed extremely professionally. Kayla Adams, Mary Morgan, Josh Johnson, and Larry Jones. She asked us to introduce ourselves in a beautiful Southern accent before handing us each an envelope and immediately taking a shot with a small digital camera. "You've all been served," she replied, turning and walking toward our boss's office. "What's this?" I called after her. "Honey, I get paid to deliver them, not to read them," she said over her shoulder, smiling. She walked into her boss's office without knocking and exited less than a minute later. "I hope everyone had a wonderful day," she exclaimed enthusiastically as she exited the building. We all opened our individual envelopes at the same time. "Do you want to file for divorce?" Oh no. As I read on, the cause was listed as marital infidelity. I was frozen with shock at the time. Josh's and Larry's cell phones started ringing. "Oh crap," they both shouted. "It would be too complicated to go over both conversations here, so I'll summarize." Their wives had just called, having received all of the evidence about their affairs a few minutes before. Their belongings were about to be thrown away and they'd have to take turns sleeping elsewhere. They were also told to expect divorce papers at the earliest possible opportunity. What the hell? A roar erupted from deep inside our boss's office. Suddenly, he appeared in the doorway, noticing the four of us. He yelled loud enough for the entire office, which was not small, to hear. "Adams, Morgan, Johnson, and Jones, get your buttocks in here now." I had a really horrible feeling. We filed past him, heads low, into his office. He closed the door behind us. Bad. I didn't even begin to cover it. "Would one of you fools please explain this to me?" he inquired, dangling a manila packet in front of us. Neither of us dared to speak. "Let me enlighten you, idiots. Apparently, the corporation is being sued for failing to follow the moral code specified in our employee handbook. Anyone know why someone would want to do that?" Again, we couldn't force ourselves to talk. "Let me spell it out for you. We're being sued because it appears Mrs. Adams is unable to keep her legs closed. Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson cannot keep the Johnsons in their pants. And Mrs. Jones, Morgan has converted their storage room into the company's own brothel. Now, could one of you geniuses please assure me that none of this is true? Can someone confirm this? At the very least, none of this crap occurred during business hours or on company premises. Anyone know? Are you serious? What in the heck were you idiots thinking? And you fools want to know what a genuine mess is? This terrible court injunction prevents me from firing you until the whole situation is handled. Now get the heck out of my office while I decide out what to do with these four idiots." We walked out of his office, heads bowed, and returned to our desks. After that, I rarely got any actual work done. At least I had a job. For now. I decided to check the divorce petition to see how terrible things could become. It was horrible. He had photographs, films, audio, and even some notarized letters. I was about to get royally screwed. An hour later, the boss sent out an email to the entire firm, including all employees. Management has become aware of several situations in which workers have engaged in actions that directly contravene the firm's moral code of conduct, as outlined in the employee handbook, particularly those involving work hours and company property. Given that these activities were carried out by several individuals, and the possibility that this problem is more prevalent than currently documented, decisive action will be taken. Because management cannot be confident of the scope of these violations or the number of personnel engaged, the following actions are being taken. All employees are obliged to read the moral code part of the employee handbook. An online training program will be available over the weekend, and all employees must successfully finish it by next Friday. Security will investigate all secluded places at random during the day. This will happen several times per day until permanent security cameras are deployed. These places should be monitored. From now on, the storage room will be locked. The head of security will hold the key, and any supplies need will be obtained with the security escort. It will rigorously monitor computer usage to guarantee that no personal actions occur on company equipment. Planning non-work-related meetings with co-workers or other individuals during work or non-work hours is an example of a prohibited activity. Using personal email addresses on company computers. Browse non-work-related websites. Text communications not related to business interactions with coworkers must be kept strictly to the break room during regular breaks and lunch hours. Security staff will patrol the building today to enforce this in accordance with corporate policy. The identities of those responsible for these actions will not be revealed. I am confident that this will not be necessary. 2 minutes later, my email inbox was inundated with hate messages from colleagues. I met the other 3 after work at the tavern across the street. We sat at a little table in the corner. A few co-workers were present on Friday. Happy hour too. Yes, the glances they gave us were unfriendly. At least we still have work for the time being. That was thoughtful of him, I commented. But why do you believe Jack included this in his divorce filing? Oh, please, Josh responded. It's brutally clear he wasn't trying to spare you any grief. He did that to make things worse for you. What do you mean? Alimony? How about right now? It may not matter because he is citing infidelity as the reason, but this is his safeguard against it. If you have a good career and a fair salary, no judge will issue you alimony. However, if you are dismissed and are unable to locate another work, a compassionate judge may conclude that you require financial assistance until you can regain your footing, so you remain employed until the divorce is finalized. You're lucky. Then, as soon as it's done, all 4 of us are likely to leave with a pink slip. And then what? No alimony and suddenly no employment. You become totally screwed. And unlike me, without the use of any lubricant. No, this was not intended to aid you in any way. Damn. Then I'll just quit on Monday. Oh, are you serious? Are you really so clueless? Asked Larry. What do you mean? Quitting means leaving your employment on your own accord. If you even try to seek alimony after willingly leaving a well-paying employment shortly after the divorce is filed, the judge will be skeptical. Good luck convincing a judge that it was not a setup to obtain financial support from your ex. When the judge sees you as a gold digger, that's all he sees. No, your best bet is to keep your employment as long as possible while saving every money you can. It's going to become worse for Josh and me. You can bet our wives will receive alimony and child support because we both have children. What do you think would happen if we are abruptly out of work and unable to locate another employment that pays nearly as much? Keep in mind that alimony and child support are determined by income at the time of divorce. Dan, a lot of things don't sound so good now. I realized I needed to speak with Jack and attempt to sort things out. Sure, I wanted to help my friends, but I couldn't risk losing my husband. What the hell was I thinking? To hell with my friends. If it means throwing them under the bus to save my marriage, then so be it. I promptly took out my phone. Sorry, the number you phoned does not accept calls from this number. Damn it, Mary. Give me your phone. Why? Because Jack has blocked my number. I need to talk to him and sort out this problem. She handed me her phone, and my 3 companions regarded me skeptically. Sorry, the number you entered is not accepting calls. Damn. He also blocked yours. Try Larry or Josh's phones. Not a good idea. I'm trying to make things right. How do you think he'll react if he finds out? The first call I make is from one of my lover's phones. Yes, I am aware that you are probably already thinking I am an idiot. At this point, I can't argue with it. I began to panic. How can I find a husband who does not want to be seen on a Friday night? Waiting for him at his office was pointless because it was also closed and he does not work weekends. My cell phone number is restricted, as is Mary's. I was pretty sure he had blocked both our home and business phones. I realized that making a phone call would be ineffective. I needed to do it face to face. I had to figure out where he was and arrange to meet him. Forget all this bullshit about female-led marriages. Right now, I'd gladly submit entirely simply to get him back. How swiftly everything had changed. Just this morning, I've considered forcing him to beg and degrade himself in order to return home. Any suggestions on who might be begging now? I grabbed my phone and began browsing through my contacts. Surely one of his friends would know where to find him. Spoiler: none of our common acquaintances knew anything. Well, that is not fully correct. None of our old common acquaintances, who remained friends with me, knew anything. Many of our mutual friends, who now despised me, knew enough. Unfortunately, while they had no concerns about telling me where he was, they absolutely refused to provide any information. They laughed in my face when I requested if they could forward a message from me. I had just concluded my last call and was enjoying my fourth drink in a fairly melancholy mood. That is when Josh decided to share his brilliance. Yes, that is sarcasm. Perhaps it was simply my mood at the moment. Perhaps it was simply the difference in how women and men think. Some of you might think Josh's suggestion clever. Me? I did not. "Well," Josh started, "our lives are already a disaster. Why don't we just get some tequila and spend the entire night together? There are 4 of us. We have already had some fun. We might as well make it an all-nighter." He believed that was sound logic, maybe for him, but I used a lot of common sense. Sure, if there was nothing left to lose, it may be worth considering. Personally, I believed there was still a minuscule opportunity for Jake and me, but it would vanish as quickly as a drop of water on the surface of the sun. If I had everyone over for an all-night orgy, I respectfully declined, suggesting Mary take them home. I was attempting to win back my hubby. I tried everything I could think of throughout the weekend to locate Jack. I spent hours driving around motel parking lots looking for his pickup. I drove by his friends' residences at several times to see if his truck was present. I even tried to follow his closest friend as he left his house, hoping he'd leave me with Jack. None of it worked. On Monday morning, I camped out across the street from his business. I watched everyone arrive that morning, but Jack never appeared. I waited for another hour. Still nothing. Even though I was late for work, I didn't mind. To hell with it. They weren't going to dismiss me right away, and I'd go once everything was resolved anyway. But none of this mattered. I got out of my car and entered his office building. I noticed Jack's office door was closed and asked the receptionist whether he was inside. She informed me that he was away for 2 weeks. When I arrived 2 hours late, Dan and my employer both gave me a terrible look. I could care less. All of the phones I could use were blocked. His pals declined to help. I can't even send a message to him at work. I don't know where he is, so I can't show up on his doorstep. Mail is not an option because I'm not sure where to send it. What choices do I have? Email. He always checks his email. I really hope he didn't block mine. There is no harm in trying, Jack. I don't have an excuse, so I won't waste your time. I will only say that I have caught the folly bug. I don't blame Mary for this. I made my own decisions. But hearing her discuss a female-led marriage sounded amazing. I have no idea what made me believe there was even a remote chance you'd accept it. Yes, I should have known better. I'm so sorry. It required a symbolic slap to awaken me. Now I am awake. I need you to understand that I am very ashamed and regret my acts. I understand you may not accept this at all, Jack. Despite my recent actions, I genuinely love you with all my heart. Don't think you did anything wrong. It's just that I was so foolish and selfish. Jack, my love, even if I don't deserve it, I seek your forgiveness. I need you to let me come back, and I'm willing to offer you anything to make it happen. I see how silly it was of me to try to form a FLR, but I would be happy to be a part of an MLR. Yes, Jack, I am offering you my heart, and all you have to do is command. I'll literally do anything. You want me back where I belong, with you. Yes, I grasp the meaning of anything. Please, Jack, I am offering you everything. I've never had the least interest in ladies. Nonetheless, I'd share your pleasures with another lady if it meant getting back with you. I'd serve you and your pals at a Super Bowl party in only a garter belt, stockings, and high heels. If that brings me back to you, I'd like to take charge. Just order me to bend over the nearest chair regardless of who is present, with a spanking. Wearing a leather belt. Help! Please let me know when and where I will bring the belt. Since you have no reason to believe me, I would gladly wear a chastity belt and give you the keys as part of my return to you. I have already had blood extracted for an STD test. The findings should be ready in a few days. Simply tell me where to send them, and I will deliver them to you. Whatever happens, Jack, I know that. You are the best person I have ever known. I know you would never hurt me, even if I deserved it. You can punish me, humiliate me in front of our friends. Please treat me as your own. Kiss my breasts, body, or tattoo me. Anything. I accept it all. I am not expecting you to forget or even trust me again. All I ask for is a chance to be yours, in whatever way you choose. I only ask for one thing, to be with you forever. Even if it means agreeing to a divorce or watching you interact with other women. I hope it does not come to that. But I understand that it is not my choice. I'm the one who is at fault, and I understand that you might want to take responsibility, even the score, regarding Mary, Larry, Josh, and the lawsuit against my employer. Mary duped me into agreeing to her scheme. Josh and Larry took advantage of this. As you know, I'll be dismissed as soon as the company resolves the lawsuit. We are all liable. Do whatever you want with them. I'll even help if you want. After all, from now on, I am your willing servant. Kayla, your beloved servant. Epilogue. Fortunately, Jack had not blocked my email yet. Even more surprised, he read it. No, he did not believe my words. After all, I had already broken the most significant vow I had ever made, the one about leaving everyone behind. What makes him believe I won't violate any more promises now that I've broken the first? All I could do was prove it to him. Take one action at a time. It has been 2 years since I sent that letter. Josh and Larry went through a horrible divorce. The day after the lawsuit was settled, the corporation fired all 4 of us. Josh and Larry eventually found new employment, but the salary was much lower, so they had to relocate into a small 2-bedroom apartment in one of the rougher districts of town. Because no normal woman wants to date a guy who can barely afford rent, their social lives are virtually non-existent. Their ex-wives seized the chance to turn the children against them. I've heard that both women are in much better relationships now. As for me, I'm currently kneeling by the bed, unclothed, wearing an accessory and a belt as part of my penance, while Jack performs his ritual. Did I include all of this in that letter? Yes. Jack wanted to put me to the test and see if I would fulfill my word if I wanted to win him back. I didn't have much choice. The first 6 months were rough, but he eventually relaxed a bit. He still makes me follow routines like this one, but things have gotten better. Now, he only brings other women home every few months. I've even learned to accept that aspect of our relationship. After I was dismissed, I stopped working. Jack was promoted and earns enough for us to live well without my salary. I spend the most of my time at home caring for our children. We currently have 2-year-old twins. I usually dress casually at home. Though Jack recently stated the necessity to start wearing standard clothes more frequently as the kids get older, it may appear unusual otherwise. For the time being, I only dress fully when we go out or have guests around. I still answer the door for deliveries. I now have piercings on my chest and in an intimate location, and I must say I like them. The sensitivity is significantly higher. I also got laser hair removal, which resulted in a permanent strip that displays my tattoos. Jack is on the right side, and the property is on the left. Every week, Jack updates the 5 red stripes on my backside with a leather strap immediately following the 5th stripe. While I lean over the couch, he pulls out the plug. I am not flawless. When I make a mistake, I get extra stripes on my backside or breast, which I actually like. Who knew that the pain of the strap would elicit such a reaction? Mary's still married. Of course, she was dismissed, but no one anticipated her to face major consequences. Her hubby is totally under her control. She'll just find another job, and life will continue for her. Unfortunately, life isn't always fair. Yes, indeed. That. Harold turned out not to be the subservient pushover. Everyone thought. He became outraged after gathering all of the evidence. I thought I had had a difficult 6 months, but it was nothing compared to what she went through after deciding she'd had enough punishment. He gave her divorce papers while putting Mary through hell. He secretly liquidated and secured their assets. He left her the house after refinancing it and taking all of the equity, then vanished. She lost the house and all of her money. She found another employment, although it paid barely half of her previous salary. She is also struggling with a ruined reputation, and right now, she's not seeing anyone. She is still taking antibiotics for another month. You're probably questioning why I put up with it, or laughing because I got what I deserved. If you're upset that Jack didn't abandon me in the cold, every day I thank God for not giving me what I deserved. I put up with it because I cannot picture life without the love of my life. Yes, Jack disciplined and humbled me, but he still loved me. He's been with other women, but never without me. I can leave whenever I choose. And Jack showed me the documents indicating that he would be fully fair in a divorce. I declined his offer. He is an incredible father, lover, and spouse. I don't need anything else. I became so engrossed in the idea of a female-led marriage that I lost sight of what was genuinely important. Instead of finding satisfaction in an equal partnership, I've become completely committed to my husband. Here's the next story. On Halloween night, I discovered something unfathomable. My wife had a hidden affair with my best buddy. I saw her return with that unmistakable. I've just been with someone else. Look, my world shattered. Fueled by betrayal and hatred, I resolved to wreck their lives piece by piece. My precise strategy started to take shape, from economic sabotage to public humiliation. This is not merely a narrative about infidelity, it's the story of the ultimate reckoning. As the truth emerges, their once perfect world crumbles, and they realize the full consequences of crossing a man scorned. This is my story, my vengeance, and their destruction. I just wrote 3 checks of $100,000 apiece, 2 to my wife's favorite charity, and 1 to mine, the Wounded Warrior Project, which we support each year. We donated more than usual because we had extra money saved. I assumed it would come back to bite her. My name is Kurt Van Hall. Until 6 weeks ago, I hadn't realized the truth about the lady I loved. I believed I loved her, but that has ended, and I want her to repent all of the lies. I should have recognized anything was wrong after our 4th of July celebration with friends. I believe that's when she realized she wanted her own freedom. That night, she was the one who initiated intimacy with me. That never occurs. She was full of energy and excitement as if we hadn't had that connection in years. Now, I believe that could have been an opportunity for her to cheat, and I was simply enjoying what I assumed was my new wife. I knew she'd had a few drinks, but I didn't think much about it. I hoped that would continue, but later that week, when I tried to come closer, she pushed me away. By Labor Day, I was frustrated, and she was agitated, saying, "That's all you want to do." I believed I was clueless, but there were indications I simply overlooked. The Halloween party was a significant occasion for me. We were visiting a friend's place. Melanie, my wife, wanted to wear something provocative. I didn't like it, but I thought it may be amusing with friends at 5 feet 3 inches, 120 pounds, with auburn hair. She looked stunning in her fishnet stockings, short black skirt, high heels, and mask. That was not when I found it out either. At the party, I lost track of her. She attracted a lot of attention in that attire. After half an hour without seeing her, I began to wonder where she went. Then I saw her. She entered the room where I was. This was my big moment. She had that expression on her face. Many guys recognize an unfaithful partner by their calm demeanor. Suddenly, everything clicked. I remembered the 4th of July that night. Her remorse, longer hours at her animal shelter job, her remote demeanor, and my frustration. I hadn't been intimate since August. How could I have missed it? I told myself I was simply innocent and trusting. But who was it? I looked around for anyone hiding or grinning, but no one was there. I needed to investigate before accusing my wife. Melanie and I are from different places, sort of. She is from the West Coast, and I am from Iowa. We met during our junior year of college at Cornell College. No, not Cornell University. It is a minor liberal arts school in Iowa. It's about 30 minutes from where I grew up, in a conservative town of largely Dutch heritage. I'm not sure why there are so many Dutch people in Iowa. They come from Europe with dikes, canals, and marshes, and settle in Iowa, which is flat and contains cornfields, cows, chickens, and churches. It seems bizarre to me, yet it is where I grew up, and it has influenced who I am. Melanie was raised in California, but not in the more conventional North. No, she grew up in Southern California, which is known for its open-mindedness. You may ask how she ended up at Cornell College. It's a liberal arts school, but what that implies varies depending on the individual. Her parents met there before relocating to California for work. They hoped Melanie would benefit from learning some Midwest values at their old school. So Melanie Scott applied, was approved, and began attending Cornell College. We met in the library. I was preparing for an engineering class because I was majoring in mechanical engineering. When I heard a frustrated voice, I asked the library, "Do you have an Algebra for Dummies book? I'm retaking this course and still don't get it." Math has always been simple for me, so when I heard algebra, I looked up to see who was speaking. There at the desk was the most stunning girl I'd ever seen. She had auburn hair, was short, and exuded confidence. The librarian checked and said, "Sorry, it is checked out. I'm going to fail this test. I cannot fail it." "What shall I do?" the girl shouted out. "Perhaps you should return to your dorm room and review the practice questions," the librarian recommended. "My roommate and her boyfriend are present. I will be unable to focus." The girl said, "You can study here, but we close in 25 minutes. According to the librarian, the girl dropped her book on the table and sighed as she sat down. I stood up and headed towards her. I felt nervous and didn't know what to say. She glanced at me and asked, "What do you want?" I stuttered a while before saying, "I can help you." She looked perplexed and asked, "How?" "I'm quite good at math. Even when you wear a dress, you don't resemble me. So you can't take the test for me," she said. "I could assist you study," I offered. "I do not think I can learn anything. I tried, but I am not good at math." She spoke regretfully. "I would like to give it a try," I said. "Why would you want to help me?" she asked. "I wish to help someone who is in distress," I replied, feeling assured. "By the way, I am quite curt." She grinned slightly and continued. "Well, the person in trouble is named Melanie." "How much will you charge me?" she asked, assuming I was an instructor. "It depends on how well you perform on your test," I responded. "All right," she said, pausing for a while. "If I pass, I'll buy you a pizza. If you pass, it cannot be from Domino's." I said, "You have to take me to Gus and Tony's. It's a well-known pizza restaurant in Mount Vernon, Iowa." "Okay," she said. "It will be worth it." I chose to take a chance. "What happens if you receive a C on the test? What are you going to do then?" "I will give you a kiss after dinner," she replied with a grin. "And if you earn a B?" I inquired, expecting for more. "If you help me get a B, I'll let the girls out of the corral," she said, bringing her palms to her chest. I must have appeared astonished because she chuckled and continued. "If I get an A, you can ask me anything." She didn't believe in her ability to learn or my ability to teach. I suggested we go somewhere quiet to study. So we piled into my car and drove to Denny's. We found a booth and ordered nachos. I informed the waitress that we'd be there for a while and promised a good tip. Melanie was serious. She struggled with academics, particularly algebra. She couldn't understand it. Allow her to stand for numbers. I started with simple math questions. What is 3, 4, and 7? She responded. Great. Now notice that line? In algebra, letters are used instead of lines. Why? She inquired, confused. Because different letters can represent various numbers. Let me show you. I jotted down 3, thinking of A as the space we had. So, what is an A la cur 7? She said, good. Now 3B7 I wrote, what is BFUR? She explained that we use different letters for different numerals. Here is another one. 3XB6. What is B now? B is 2, she responded. In algebra, we utilize letters and numbers, and instead of X for multiplication, we just write them next to one another. So 3 times 6 equals 3B6. What is B? I asked twice since 3 times 2 equals 6. Great. Now for division 6B3. Why is B still 2? Because dividing 6 by 2 yields 3. You're starting to understand. I stated I was pleased to watch her progress. We stayed till nearly 3 in the morning. Many times, I noticed her face light up. She eventually got it. Her class began at 10, so I drove her back to her room. I urged her not to worry and to get at least 6 hours of sleep. Don't try to learn everything right before the morning test. That will just increase your anxiety. She thanked me and kissed my cheek. Then, with a cheeky smile, she said, I hope I get an A. Then she turned to leave. What she's saying is what I believe she was saying. I wondered to myself. I can't wait to see how she does. I didn't get to be alone with her, and the other girls weren't able to join us. But I did receive pizza and a kiss. Actually, I received more than one kiss, and the females appeared really excited, based on what I could see through her sweater. Things progressed along, and she eventually received an A on an exam. We soon became a couple. Summer break was approaching, and I wanted to locate an internship. I wanted to stay in Southern California so that we could continue dating. I had no luck with that, but I did get an internship at the NUMMI facility in San Francisco. It was a long commute, taking 6 hours or more depending on traffic, so I could only see her on weekends. I met her parents, and I believe they liked me. They said I helped their girl feel better. We thoroughly liked our time together. Every weekend I felt exhausted because she was so energetic. When October arrived, we returned to college. I studied extensively. I wanted to achieve good marks and acquire a nice career so that I could marry Melanie. Melanie was pursuing a degree in human resources. We both worked hard in school and had fun. It was a fantastic year. We discussed our ambitions and dreams. I wanted to marry her and have many children. Melanie believed in raising a small family. She stated we should have 2 children, a boy and a girl. So I changed my hopes to having 1 male and 1 girl. For our dream home, I wanted 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and approximately 1,500 square feet. She requested 3,000 ft2 of space with 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, so we may welcome guests over and provide them with a place to sleep. She said, I suppose I need to find a really good job. I considered my ambitions. I know that sounds crazy, but I wanted to visit all of Europe's capitals as well as state capitals. I wanted to travel and hike through Europe. She wished to volunteer with her favorite charity, the ASPCA and Planned Parenthood. Coming from Iowa, I didn't understand why one group wanted to conserve baby animals while the other assisted end pregnancies. To me, that looked like a confused message. We talked about it a few times before I decided to discontinue it in late winter of my senior year. I received a job offer from a plant that supplies the major 3 automakers. They supplied all automobile makers. My internship at NAMI proved to be really beneficial. However, this meant that we'd have to relocate to Michigan near Detroit. On my way back from the 4th interview, I discovered I had gotten the job. I reflected on a variety of topics while driving for 9 hours. First, I asked Melanie to marry me. I was certain she'd say yes. The second question was how to help her obtain work in the same field. The third question was where we would live. I thought it would be a good idea to rent an apartment until we got to know the neighborhood better before hunting for our first home. I had a clear vision of my future. I envisaged getting married, purchasing a home, and having children. We spent time at baseball events, soccer matches, and ballet recitals. We'd start traveling once the kids were in college. On the way back home, I stopped in Chicago. I had a $5,000 signing bonus with me. I planned to purchase an engagement ring. I discovered a small family-owned jewelry store and purchased a stunning engagement ring and wedding band set for $4,000. I felt quite thrilled. When I arrived back to Mount Vernon, I contacted Melanie and invited her out to supper. I proposed during dessert. She said yes through tears in her eyes. Following that, I informed her about my job offer. She was pleased for me, but concerned about going to Michigan. Isn't it freezing for most of the year? And Detroit? I grinned and replied, "Honey, it's not colder than Iowa in the winter. There's enough to do there. You'll adore it." With wedding plans in place, we married on May 23rd in California. We spent our honeymoon at Niagara Falls before settling into our first apartment. I started my job. On June 1st, I will know the status of my career. Melanie landed a job through a temp agency. Her responsibilities included hiring and human resources. It was valuable experience, but she desired a position with a large corporation that hired directly. Life has kept us on our toes. We believed we'd wait a few years before having kids, but 8 months after our wedding, we discovered we were expecting a baby. We couldn't comprehend how much our lives would alter. We promptly began searching for a home. We purchased a wonderful Cape Cod-style home with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It wasn't overly spacious, but it was ideal for starting our family in 9 months. We were blessed with a baby girl called Kaylee Jane. I called her KJ, but Melanie always referred to her as Kaylee. She was stunning, with strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, and 10 little fingers and toes. I fell in love the instant she slipped her fingers around mine. Things changed as predicted once the baby arrived. However, I didn't see any changes coming. Melanie displayed little desire in intimacy, even months after having baby. I have to encourage her every time. I was shocked. My wife, who had previously cherished those moments, no longer wanted to. We discussed it countless times, but she almost never agreed. I wanted to try for another baby, hoping for a boy. When I questioned our family doctor about it, she said it could be linked to postpartum depression. Melanie, however, did not appear sad. She took care of KJ exactly as much as I did. We were happy outside of the bedroom. I advised she talk to someone about it. She reluctantly went to a therapist, who said it could be a type of PTSD. Melanie had a rough time during childbirth, which lasted with her. The therapist hoped that with further support, things would improve. I truly wanted a boy, so I begged her for a kid. After a while, I started tracking her monthly cycle. I sought to determine the optimal days for her to become pregnant, and on those days, I pushed hard for us to be together. We had a few moments together, but no baby arrived. I adored Melanie, and after a few more years, I put aside my desire for a son. I concentrated on appreciating my wife and our precious daughter. If I'm honest, I gave KJ a lot of my love and attention. Instead, Melanie decided to stay home with KJ and never return to his regular employment. She just volunteered. Now, 17 years after KJ was born, we had a large house and an excellent job. Everything seemed good at home, but I had a feeling something was wrong. At the party, I waited for 10 minutes to discover out who Melanie was with. I wanted to leave Melanie. I said, "I have a migraine coming on. I want to get home and into bed before things get really terrible." I was pretending, and she appeared upset. "Are you certain it's a migraine and not a minor flu?" she asked. "I understand the difference," I responded harshly. That was unlike me. Okay, let's go. I will tell Susan and Jim. She appeared worried. On the walk home, I remained silent and closed my eyes. At first, it appeared that I was attempting to cover the headlights, but in reality, I did not want to see her. If I stared at her, I knew I was going to cry. She started talking, but I cut her off before she finished. Could you please be quiet and take the back roads? Fewer lights. I was making a big deal about my worst migraine ever. When we arrived home, I hurried to our bedroom, removed my clothing, and climbed into bed in the dark. Melanie walked in and began moving around. I snapped again. Be silent. You're making things worse. She exited the room and softly closed the door. Now I had to think about how I would find out who she was dating. Should I hire a private investigator? Right then, I heard her phone ring. I quietly opened the door a little. She was downstairs and I could hear her talking. No, I can't return. Kurt is really in pain. This is the worst migraine he has ever had. I wish I could return, but I cannot leave him. Would you abandon Mary if she was ill? You probably would. To get another chunk of this ass. Mary. There were 2 Marys in our group of pals. I needed to figure out which husband it was. Then I overheard it. I know, Jack. I wanted to spend more time with you, too. I wanted to give Kurt sloppy seconds, just like the first time, but I can't do it tonight. He can barely move. Jack Anderson, of course. Another Californian liberal. He and Mary arrived here around 7 years ago with their daughter, Jasmine. Jasmine was a year older than KJ, yet they remained friends. She was attending Wayne State University and decided to live at home to save money on dorm costs. Jack Anderson. I can't believe this. He worked as a salesman for a company that provided parts to my company. We were their biggest client. I'll make him pay more than he realizes. I sneaked back into my room. The old proverb goes that revenge is best served cold. But I do not agree. I enjoy speed and revenge. And now I want it to happen before they know it's coming. I needed a plan because I work as an engineer. I identify an issue and devise a plan to solve it. First, I had to make sure I didn't see Melanie too much. I didn't know how to hide my rage from her at that point. Tomorrow is Saturday. Melanie spent one of her volunteer days at the animal shelter. I needed to wake up feeling good enough that she wouldn't have to stay home with me. KJ, currently a senior in high school, was always available to help me if I needed it. Melanie entered around an hour later and turned on the light. I yelled with anguish. She swiftly shut it off again. She then murmured, "I'm going to stay in one of the guest bedrooms tonight." "I hope you're feeling better," I grumbled to express my understanding. Melanie checked on me in the morning, but I pretended I was sleeping. She gathered her clothing and exited the room. After she informed KJ to keep an eye on me, she went to work. I got up, showered, and dressed. As I headed downstairs to the kitchen, I noticed CJ preparing breakfast pancakes with eggs and bacon. "Hey, Dad, Mom says you got a severe migraine yesterday night. I didn't expect you to be awake this early. Do you want me to cook you some breakfast?" "That would be fantastic, KJ. You are the best daughter a man could have." She smiled at me with warm eyes. She was my entire world right now. I needed to handle this matter properly for her sake. It was her senior year, after all, and she'd be going to college the next year. We talked about school, male sports, and more. Then I said, "Have you decided which college you want to attend next fall?" "I'm not sure yet, Father. I know I want to pursue engineering, but I don't want to make you unhappy." "How could that upset me?" I inquired, pleased that my daughter desired to follow my career. "So, I guess I want to go to Cornell." "Wow. Our school. That's great." "No, Dad. Cornell University." I must admit that hearing about the other Cornell made me a little melancholy. Nonetheless, it was a premier engineering school. I suppose I can accept it. "That is fantastic. They are some of the best. I'd be pleased to have a daughter who graduated from either Cornell. Have you submitted your application yet?" "I sent it 4 weeks ago. I really want to know anything before Christmas, so that I may begin making plans. I will try if I can get some pals to help you out, he responded. That would be wonderful, Dad. After breakfast, I informed KJ I was headed to work. I had some crucial things to attend to. I went to the office to work out my ideas. First, I considered my daughter. I reviewed the profiles of every engineer at our facility and other sites. None of the engineers here attended Cornell University, but 2 from another plant did. One of them was a department head I recognized from meetings. I will call him first thing Monday a.m. I told myself to get back at my wife, who would soon become my ex-wife, and Jack Anderson. Jack would be an easier target. I spoke with a couple individuals on the production line. Yes, they work on Saturday. Some of them had difficult backgrounds and even criminal records. I asked them who I should talk to for a funny prank. I said, talk to Andy, he'll help you out. However, if it is intended for you, proceed with caution. Perfect. That is exactly what I need. I assumed that since Andy did not work on Saturdays, I would have to wait until Monday for that. I needed to create a list for Monday. Talk with Ben in New Jersey about KJ. Talk to Andy. Talk to HR. Considering cashing out my 401k. In the event that things do not work out, contact a divorce lawyer for assistance. I knew a couple males who had gotten divorced. Their stories were awful. If they thought their marriage was difficult, the divorce was even worse. I was resolved not to let this happen to me. For the time being, I've decided to complete some more tasks. I went to the bank and withdrew all but $10,000. Then I went to another bank and opened a checking account only in my name. I also received a credit card just in my name. After that, I called the credit card company and paid it off, lowering the limit to $1,000. Next, I contacted a private investigator to discuss my choices. I needed to know Jack's routine. We scheduled an appointment for Monday. After that, I went to Radio Shack and purchased motion-sensitive cameras and recorders that activate with sound. It was approximately midday, so I contacted Melanie to find out when she would be home. Hello, honey. I am sorry for last night. I did not mean to upset you, I said, trying hard not to reveal anything. How do you feel? Do you need me to return home? No, I am feeling better. I'm going to run some errands first, then rake the leaves in the yard. That's great to hear. I'm quite busy, so I might not be home until dinner, she responded. I pondered whether I should trust her or go check on her. It did not matter. It actually turned out well. I knew I'd have plenty of time to complete my tasks, so I headed home. It took me around 3 hours to arrange everything in the house. KJ. I was out with pals all day. Teenagers frequently spend little time at home. I wanted to check out the new laptop I purchased. I had it set to record everything and stashed it in the basement. Nobody goes down there even for laundry. Melanie spent a lot of money on remodeling the second level. More than $20,000, all to make me happy. Now I needed to go outdoors and start raking the leaves. I wanted to finish at least half before she arrived home. She opened the sliding glass door around 5 and announced that she had arrived home. She inquired, "How are you feeling?" "I am good enough to rake leaves. I should have them all back around 7, yo." She said, "I'll help you. Just let me change." 5 minutes later, she emerged from the garage with a rake. We started raking up the leaves. I didn't say much. I didn't want her to suspect that something was wrong. We ended around 6:30, and she mentioned that she was going to start dinner. I went upstairs to shower and change into some comfortable clothes. I selected a Cornell College sweatshirt. I wondered how she'd react to that. Will it remind her of happier times? I returned downstairs as Mom was arranging the supper. "Dinner will be ready in approximately 10 minutes, she informed me. Great. That gives me just enough time to get the bags of leaves to the curb by Monday. I opened the folding door and entered the backyard. I opened the gate to the side yard and carried the bags one by one to the curb. I'd already filled 15 bags, and the trees still had plenty of leaves left inside. I stopped in the small bathroom off the mudroom to wash my hands. Then I sat down to eat. The entree consisted of chicken breasts on rice with a veggie mix. It's strange how small things can irritate me now. I smiled and ate calmly as she described her hectic day at the shelter. I only half listened, making a few sounds to indicate that I was paying attention. After dinner, we spent approximately an hour watching television. Then I said, I am going to bed early. I want to try and get rid of this headache. It's not too bad, but a little more rest will help. So by 8 p.m., I was in bed. I guess I fell asleep around 8:45. I had not slept well the night before, so I was exhausted. On Sunday, I got up to prepare for church. KJ met me at the bottom of the stairs, prepared to go. Melanie told me she wasn't going this week. It was funny. She hadn't traveled much since July 4th. That was another indicator I missed, but I never pressed her on it. She had an inconsistent church attendance record. The sermon was about forgiveness. I pondered if I could forgive Melanie. I kept wondering why she did this. Some women think turning 40 is a huge deal. Was she attempting to feel young again before turning 40 in a few months? When the service ended, I simply sat there. One of my pals approached me and asked, "How was your Halloween?" I turned at my pal and said, "That was awful. One of the worst nights I have ever had." KJ. Then he informed me he came home with a severe headache. That was not it. I assumed that was just a story to skip. Your mom? I could not inform KJ that. I am sorry to hear that, Kurt. I will pray for you, he responded. Pray for the entire family. I responded. Then I walked away. When we arrived home, lunch was ready. We ate roast meat with all of the sides. Melanie had improved her cooking skills significantly since the beginning of our marriage. It was hit or miss. How do you botch up a basic task? I wasn't sure if they still produced chunky-style sandwiches, but she created one for me and I ate it on a bun. I said nothing negative about it. About an hour after dinner, she discovered in the fridge that she hadn't cooked the hamburger. We both chuckled, so I told her, "Everything you do makes me happy." That was the past. This is now. After lunch, I informed Melanie that I was going out to check my deer blind in the woods. "Oh, I did not realize you were going hunting this year. You haven't gone in several years." "Yeah, I believe I will go at least once. For those who are unaware, November 15th marks the beginning of rifle deer shooting season in Michigan. It's not an official holiday, but it certainly seems like one. Many establishments shuttered for the first few days. It provided me a decent cause to leave for at least one day. Sunday night was back on track. I didn't initiate anything, so we didn't have that type of night, which was okay with me. I would not think about it right now, for anything in this world. Monday was going to be busy. I arrived at work at 7 QOW and contacted Ben in New Jersey. I had to leave a message because I assumed department leaders didn't arrive till 9. There. Next, I emailed Human Resources to set up a meeting. Then I wandered around to see if Andy had time to talk. I saw him waiting for supplies and asked if we could chat. "Sure, Kurt." "What up?" he said. "I'd rather not talk about it here. It is personal. Do you have time today? Or perhaps after work?" "Sure. Once I have the line flowing, it pretty much takes care of itself. I can get one of the guys to cover for me." "Great. Please meet me in my office whenever possible. I will be waiting." Andy arrived about a half hour later. "What can I do for you, boss?" "Andy, you already know I'm not your employer. You should be. You are the only one who knows what is going on here." I grinned and then grimaced. I had no idea what was going on at work, and I didn't comprehend anything at home. I felt lost. I used to be different. "Andy, I need to speak with you about something crucial. I need you to keep this secret, okay? Nobody will know about this unless you are planning something wild, such as a major crime. I won't say anything. I can even help you with an alibi. Most people don't take it too seriously. It will not be. I am listening." "Go ahead," he said. "I am thinking of hiring a lady," he said. "Whoa." I did not thought you were that type. This is not for me, Andy. I'd like to get back at an old acquaintance. Why would you want to get him a woman if he is your former friend? Is he threatening you? No. Let's assume it's for vengeance. So, are you going to take pictures and threaten him? No, I might snap pictures, but that isn't the point. I want a woman who resembles a typical housewife. Ah, I see. You want to bring him into trouble with his partner? That might happen, but what I truly want is for him to become unwell. Do you believe we can find someone for that in 2 weeks on November 14th? Wow. That's harsh, but I understand why you're furious. Remind me not to get on your wrong side. Do you believe you could help me find her? Yeah, I believe I can. The primary challenge would be convincing the woman to bear the disease for a week or so. I can pay $1,000. Will that work? I am not sure. She may be out of business for at least 2 weeks. Okay, how about $2,000? That's $1,000 a week, plus $500 for finding her a deal. I'll give you all the details shortly. You simply find the woman. Andy went, and I leaned back, smiling. Now I needed to go on to the next step in my strategy. As the engineer in charge of several of the machinery, I am frequently asked for my thoughts on the plant. I keep all of the business cards of salespeople, engineers, and others. I only needed to locate the proper one. I started going through the cards and selected one from XYZ Die, Inc. We hadn't purchased anything from them, but this could change soon. I contacted the number on the card and requested a meeting with the salesman and the maker. They were eager to arrive. They could be here this afternoon. I was resting in my chair thinking about how my ideas would work out, when my boss, the CEO, popped his head in and said, "Good morning." Oh. Hello, Bradley. I was going to ask for a meeting with you this morning, but I assumed I'd have to wait for Jill to arrive. If that works for you, I have some free time right now. Sure. That is perfect. Thank you, Brad. By the way, I understand you worked a few hours on Saturday. Is there anything I should know about? That's what I'd like to chat to you about. What up? It's personal and has very little to do with work. Kurt, you have been here for about 20 years. We are like family. You can chat to me about anything. So I explained everything that was going on. I requested him to keep it just between us, and he promised to. I still can't believe Melanie did that. It makes me believe I should be more careful in my own marriage. How can I help? My former pal now works as a sales representative for ABC Dyes. I helped him get this job 7 years ago. I'd like to locate another company to work with. If they can complete the same task at the same or lower cost, I'd like to inform ABC that their services are no longer required, but I don't make such decisions. Brad answered, I can help with that. Who will you ask to take their place? I've already scheduled an appointment with XYZDI this afternoon. We've already purchased some of our parts from them, and they've always done an excellent job. What should I tell ABC when I call them? Tell them we are dissatisfied with their salespeople and that XYZ has promised better prices and faster service. That is, assuming the meeting goes well today. Let me know how things go this afternoon. Thank you, Brad. It feels fantastic to be a part of a family. I smiled as he went. My plans were formulating. Next, I called a divorce attorney and scheduled an appointment for Tuesday. I checked my inbox and found a note from Human Resources. I could go see them any time before 11 a.m. I decided to leave immediately away. You never know what might happen in a manufacturing. I may get a call at any time and be busy all morning. Cherie, the HR director, greeted me and asked how she could help. I told her I had personal things to attend to and wanted to pay out my 401k. You will lose a significant amount of money unless you transfer it to another retirement account. I understand, but I can't do anything about it. What do I need to do? She assisted me in filling out the documents and attempted to persuade me once again to reconsider. Before leaving, I inquired about my remaining vacation time. She looked it up and found that I had 4 weeks plus 10 personal days. Wow, that is 6 weeks. That would help with my plans. Within 10 business days, I would have the money sent immediately into my new checking account. That afternoon's meeting with XYZ went nicely. They were eager to get our business. I'd invited Brad, Mr. Smith, the production manager, and a few production technicians to join me. They all had fantastic questions, which the XYZ salesperson and dye producer answered confidently. We felt pleased about the decision we were making. After the meeting, I spoke with Brad and advised him to wait until next Monday to contact ABC. He agreed that this would allow XYZ time to arrange everything. After work, I met with a private investigator. I needed him to follow Jack and learn everything he could about him, especially what Jack did each day. On Tuesday, I met with the attorney. He told me that getting a divorce may take months, and since we lived in a no-fault state, I didn't need proof of cheating. He also mentioned that I would lose a lot of money throughout the divorce. I thought, great. I have to fight while we are married, and I will lose much more if I divorce her. I told him I would think about it and see if I could accept Melanie's previous faults. If we could reconcile, I could be better off. But if Melanie continued to be unfaithful, I planned to divorce her by the end of the year. The lawyer also stated that 2 of the 3 judges who could hear our case typically favored the woman, awarding her at least 60% of everything we possessed. I was previously aware of this, and I intended to take action if the lawyer's forecast proved correct. I'd end up letting her keep the house and paying for her costs. That could not happen. I needed to think. Could Melanie and I get past this? I adored her, and perhaps this was a mistake she made only once. I wasn't sure whether I could completely forgive her. I figured if she came to me before Thanksgiving and admitted it, I would be able to forgive her. I'd give her the chance to tell me. However, I had to contemplate the possibility that she would be unfaithful again. The remainder of the week was as normal as I could manage. I didn't make any approaches, therefore there was no closeness, which was my intention since Halloween. On Friday, Andy entered my office and asked if we could talk. I answered, "Now is a great time. I am simply waiting for the weekend. I've discovered the right girl. She's 35, looks like a mother, and has consented to get the STD so she can be ready by next Friday." "How will she accomplish that?" "It's already finished. She will be contagious, but will not display any symptoms yet." "How long before there are signs?" I asked. "Usually, it takes 2 to 3 weeks." "Perfect," I said. "Thanksgiving weekend is when all will be revealed." I called the private investigator and learned about Jack's routine. He regularly visits a hotel restaurant with a bar after work. He has a drink. He flirts with the waitresses and then goes home. That was exactly what I needed. It's wonderful when a plan comes together, and this one was operating. The weekend was spent raking leaves. Why don't they all fall down at once? I filled 15 more bags while there were still leaves on the branches. I believe some of my neighbors are sending their leaves to my yard deliberately to make me furious. Well, it kept me busy. Melanie did not come to help this time. Thank God for the minor favors. On Sunday morning, it was time for church. Just KJ. Melanie is nowhere to be found, leaving me alone. Following the service, KJ. Someone said something to me. "Dad, is everything all right?" "Of course." "Why are you asking?" "I can sense something's wrong. You aren't acting like yourself. I didn't want to lie to my kid, but I needed to keep her from worrying or informing her mother about it. So I told her it was just something going on at work. Please do not mention this to your mother. She'll become worried, and I do not want that, especially with the holidays approaching." "Okay, Dad. I hope this isn't too serious. However, keep in mind that we are capable of dealing with any situation." I smiled at her because I felt confident that we had raised a strong daughter. After church, we returned home, where Melanie had prepared lunch. We ate as we normally did. Melanie asked KJ if she wanted to shop. That afternoon, I wanted to brainstorm some Christmas ideas. "Yes, Mom, that sounds fun. Dad, would you like to come?" "Nah, you two should have some mother-daughter time." After lunch, everyone left, and I went downstairs to check my laptop. I had not looked at it yet. I suppose I was terrified, too. There wasn't much to see at first, but then I caught part of Melanie's talk with Jack. "Oh, Hello, Jack. How is my close pal doing? I could feel wrath growing within me. Kurt is doing good. It's back to normal. He has. However, this happens on occasion. I cannot wait to see you again. With the holidays approaching, I'm sure I can make shopping an excuse to visit you. We'll need to decide when and where to meet. Hey, KJ just walked in. I will talk to you later. So, another covert rendezvous with Jack? At least it isn't happening in our house. I'll have to employ a private investigator to learn more. On Monday morning, I spoke with Andy and scheduled a meeting for Friday night in the hotel bar. The plan is for my pal to pretend to be a woman drinking a drink to calm her nerves before heading home to inform her husband that she has lost her job. She hopes he doesn't become upset again. They say misery loves company, and by Friday, Jack will either have lost his job or be anxious about losing it. Brad contacted ABC Dye and demanded to talk with the owner. He informed him that we were taking our business away. Starts next Monday. The owner was surprised and inquired why Brad did what I asked. The owner stated, "Let me look into this and call you back." He may have been anxious because we accounted for more than half of their business. They needed to locate new customers quickly or start laying off employees. Brad received a call back and was informed that he will have a new salesperson who could match any quote from the competitors. Brad told him to send over the new salesperson, and we'd talk on Wednesday afternoon. Brad asked me to attend the meeting. Both the new salesperson and the owner arrived looking concerned. We talked, and by the end of the conversation, it was evident that the owner was really upset with how the previous salesperson had handled us. We assured him he came in here knowing everything would be okay and that we would never stop working with him. However, we agreed to utilize them as a backup. Sometimes it was time to depart. We exited the door. I contacted my private detective and instructed him to monitor the bar tonight, tomorrow, and Friday to see if Jack showed up, especially on Friday, when my other plan would begin. I also asked him to take photos on Thursday. Something must have happened to Jack. I'm guessing he was told he'd lost an important account, which would significantly reduce his pay. That evening, at home, I informed Melanie that I was going to the basement to clean my rifle for the weekend. While I was down there, Pi called. He claimed Jack had been to the bar and had 3 beers. He appeared quite concerned about something. When I returned upstairs, I asked Melanie when supper would be ready. She appeared lost in contemplation. I needed to ask her again. She looked up and replied, "I suppose I'll order pizza." "Okay," I responded. "Just let me know when it arrives. I'm going to get my hunting gear ready." We sat down to eat after the pizza arrived. KJ. I was at a friend's house, so it was just Melanie and me. She was distracted, but I did not want to bring it up. We finished eating in solitude. She inquired, "Is there something going on at work?" "Business has been slow recently." I said that they blamed it on the election and the holidays. "Do you believe your job is safe?" she asked, cautiously. "I believe so. I've been there for about 20 years and am the highest paid employee at the plant, aside from the plant manager and CFO. I wanted to be honest while also instilling some concern about the future." "Why are you asking?" "Mary contacted to say Jack stated that there were major changes taking place at your plant. Don't worry, honey. I promised you that if anything significant changed, I'd let you know. Jack is concerned about his employment. Your strategy represents half of their business. If your plant fails, so do they. I suppose I'll have to pay closer attention at work to figure out what's actually going on. The plant closes tomorrow for deer season, so only a few engineers and maintenance personnel will be present to assess how we can improve things. Maybe I can finish early so we can go hunting ourselves. How can you think about it when we could be in jeopardy soon? What happens if you lose your job? How will we manage?" I knew she'd be worried about this. I wasn't going there anyway. "Maybe you might phone Jack and ask him about what he heard. She suggested that I speak with Brad tomorrow if I see him. I am sure you are worried for no reason. I hope you're correct." "Mary is quite worried," she said. On Friday morning, I went to work. When production is shut down, maintenance requires a lot of support, and I got busy. I didn't think about much till after 3 sao. I phoned my private investigator. He had everything ready. He said, no problem. If Jack books a room, I already have one set up with hidden cameras and recordings. It's amazing what you can accomplish with a few $100s. Thank you, Bob. Please let me know what you find. I would like to view it tomorrow morning, if that is good. My wife believes I'm going hunting so I can remain out till dark. I had planned to go after a deer in the morning, but I'll be back around noon. Does this work for you? He responded. That sounds great. Should we meet in your office? I asked. Sure. Let's make it 12:30, just in case. I did capture one this year. I haven't had much luck in the last 3 years, so I'm not depending on it, but a man can hope. I get it. I hung up and had one more call to make. I needed to contact my bank to initiate a home equity loan. I intended to withdraw as much money as possible in case things got better. I didn't want to incur any costs for repaying it early. I scheduled an appointment on Monday at 9 a.m. I could always cancel if Melanie was feeling sick and wanted to talk over the weekend. Melanie had not yet returned from work when I arrived home, so I went downstairs to check on the laptop. There's nothing new there. I brought my pistol and hunting gear up and set them by the front entrance for the next morning. Then I walked to the kitchen, took a beer, and sat on the couch, reflecting on my life. Melanie arrived a few minutes later. One final chance. I thought, hey, babe. I went home early and hoped we could reconnect. I want to go upstairs and show you how much I love you. Honey, you don't have to do that to show me you love me. I am not in the mood right now. Maybe tomorrow when you get back from hunting. What time will you be back? I groaned and replied, probably around 5. I do not want to be in the woods when it gets dark. Some hunters become agitated as the sun goes down and shoot at anything that moves. I wondered whether she wanted to be closer again. So, what's for dinner? I asked. Manage, she responded. I chuckled to myself. KJ. We came in a little later and prepared the table for dinner. We sat down and began eating. KJ, have I ever told you about the first time your mother made me manage? Yeah, Dad, she forgot the hamburger, she added, giggling. Melanie gave me the look that could stop anyone. She despised it when I mentioned it. Well, she has come a long way since then. Now she is the best cook I know, I said. But Melanie's look persisted after dinner. KJ, Melanie, and I were alone at home again, while they prepared to head out. We watched some television. At 8 p.m., I said, I'm going to bed so I can get up early and get to the woods at dawn. One final chance. I paused again as I asked, do you want to join me? It's only 8:30. If I go to bed now, I'll wake up around 3 a.m. and won't be able to fall back asleep. Well, a guy can try. So I went to bed. My alarm rang at 4:30, and I was out the door by 5 hours. I went to Denny's and got the Grand Slam breakfast. As I sat there, I reflected on the past 20 years with Melanie. Where did we make mistakes? Why did she do this? Can I forgive her? Could my love for her conquer everything? When my food arrived, I picked at it. I wasn't very hungry. I sat there reliving the happy moments we had. Were those days behind us? After approximately an hour and a half, I got up and ate only half of my supper. I left a $20 on the table and walked away. I drove around and ended up near the Detroit River. I looked across at Windsor. I had been living here for about 20 years and had done little to achieve my goals. I had never even been to Canada's capital. I needed to change it. I wanted to visit every state capital and walk across Europe. I should have lots of spare time shortly. After a while, I drove to work. I stepped in and noticed the maintenance workers working on their chores. I realized I might not be here for long. When my marriage ends, I'll have to move. I had invested all in my marriage, but it felt lost. Now my employment would most certainly be gone as well. KJ would be going to college. I would have nothing to bind me to this land. I sat at my office till noon. Then I got up and headed to the private investigator's office. I should have known that what I saw would not make me feel better. Just as I expected, my strategy worked out. Misery enjoys company. and Jack was the type of guy who would bring the distraught woman who had recently lost her job to our private room. I wondered if he'd get infected right away. I did not know. Thanksgiving was in 2 weeks, and I had planned to be out of town for the entire weekend due to an emergency. If Melanie hadn't gotten sick by then, I was confident she would soon. I have to mention that Jack was smooth. He listened to her narrative about losing her work and how her husband would be upset and even hurt her. Then he remarked, "All you need is the gentle touch of someone who cares. You should never stay with someone who beats you." He worked his way into her emotions. He told her that he would get her a room where she could stay the night and deal with her husband in the morning. Or she could leave him. No woman should have to accept being hurt. Perhaps I should remain here tonight. I should call him and explain that I have to work late on a project or something. That is a good idea. You are the decision maker. I'll reserve the room for you. She said, "I can't ask you to do that for me." What kind of man would I be if I didn't assist a lady in trouble? He responded. Those remarks struck me hard. I had been Melanie's knight in shining armor years before, saving her when she needed it. Now those words tasted harsh in my mouth. We watched as they entered the room. He was quite kind. He asked whether she was all right, and if he could help her in any way. "You are really sweet. Could you just hold me for a moment?" Andy felt she was incredible. She seemed like someone who could win an award for her acting abilities. He held her close for a minute before saying, "I should leave. You need some time to unwind and reflect on your future. Please do not depart. Not yet. Okay? I can stay for around an hour. I should go home to see my wife, but she probably won't know I'm gone. Things are not going well between us anymore. I can't believe you're that loving." "How can she not realize how wonderful you are?" she asked. "We haven't done anything romantic for a long time," he responded. They looked into one another's eyes and kissed. They instantly took off their clothes. There was a sense of urgency. Jack grabbed her and collapsed into the bed, both of them naked and curled around each other. She pulled back slightly and whispered, "Let me show you how much I care. I want to make you happy." She then moved down and kissed him. After a few moments, Jack commented, "Wow, you're amazing at this. How could someone not treat you well?" Then she pushed him back onto the bed and sat on top of him. She inhaled deeply as he penetrated her. "You are so much bigger than my previous partner. I am on the pill, so just go for it. I like it when you talk like that." Jack mentioned you had a wild side, don't you? Jack didn't understand how correct he was. Then he took over, moving her to all fours. "Do you like it like this?" he asked. "Oh, yes," she responded. Then he attempted to touch her in another way. She flinched and replied, "No thanks." "I'd never done that before. Simply try it. You might enjoy it," he said. "I do not know, it looks like it would hurt. Let me fetch some lotion from the bathroom." "It will make things easier," he remarked. "I am not sure." "Listen," he said emphatically. "You'll try it and enjoy it, all right." When he pulled away and went to the restroom, she hurriedly changed into her dress, grabbed her shoes, and dashed to the door. When he came out, she gave him a short gesture before closing the door behind her. He shouted, "You are so mean!" He was angry. He had held back for too long, and now he was uncomfortable. He walked into the restroom to care for himself. After that, he dressed and departed. After watching the film, Bob and I laughed. "Well, he got what he deserved," Bob concluded. "More than you realize, Bob. More than you think." I responded. I took the DVD, thanked Bob, and asked him to send me the final bill. "I won't need your help anymore. I have everything I need." I arrived home around 4 hours. Melanie was busy cleaning the house. She changed the sheets and washed the clothes. "Wow, nothing much is going on at the shelter today. I assumed you wouldn't be home till 5. I was going to prepare dinner," she explained. "So, have you gotten Bambi?" I asked. "No, however, I seen a male deer attempting to chase a female deer. She became angry and fled." She responded, "Well, I am not sad to hear that." she said. Neither am I. It was enjoyable to watch. I laughed. I'm going downstairs to clean and lubricate my rifle and store it till next year, she replied. You're not going back this season. You have 2 weeks remaining, I inquired. No, I am done. The fun is over. Maybe next year, she replied. I walked downstairs to put my gun away. There was no need to clean it because I had not even taken it out of the case. I examined my laptop for any news. I spotted her getting ready for work and leaving at 8:30. Then she returned at lunchtime. It was either a slow day at the shelter or she had some spare time because I wouldn't be home for a bit. She placed a phone call. I wondered if she was calling Jack. Hello, Mary, she said. I was astonished at how calm she appeared when chatting to Mary. It got me thinking that maybe Mary knew something. She listened to Mary speak. Yeah, it was a quiet day, and I kept thinking about what you said about Jack and his job. I thought to myself, yes, right. You can't stop thinking about Jack precisely as you describe. She listened again. I wished I could hear the other end of the call. No, he is out hunting right now. Or at least attempting. He does not appear worried. Sometimes he doesn't understand what she says. There it was. Clueless. Perhaps at home, but not here. She listened more. I will let you know. I'm a little worried. Could you get Jack to phone me? I would like to ask him a few questions. He might speak to me more than you. He may not want to bother you. I only want to know what he knows. Yeah, I bet you want him to tell you everything. I spoke quietly to me. Okay, I'll call you and let you know what I find out after talking with him, she said. I felt a little better knowing Melanie was concerned about my career. If I lose it, she'd have to get an actual job. I felt horrible for Mary's anxiety about Jack's work, but there was nothing I could do about it. When my plans came to fruition, that anxiousness quickly turned into rage at Jack. About an hour later, Melanie received a call from Jack. Hello, she answered. Yeah, I wanted to hear your voice. I'd prefer something else, she explained. Oh, is she there now? Oh, you can't speak to me? She proceeded. She is completely naive, just like Kurt. So that answers my question. Mary was unaware of her husband's adultery. So, do you know anything about Kurt's job? Melanie asked. No, he has not mentioned anything. Yes, I can ask him. I am sure he will compliment you. Oh, he is out hunting. Yes, that is quite severe. So, I'll talk to you later, sweetheart. Tell Mary I will call her later. Goodbye, sweetie. I was hoping she'd ask me to aid my old pal Jack. Wouldn't she be surprised if she discovered I was behind his problems? He might not have a job next week. I'm hoping she asked me to help him with his resume. I couldn't wait now that I guessed what she was about to ask. I put my laptop back where it belonged and headed upstairs. I went to our bedroom to change clothes. When I arrived downstairs, Melanie and CJ were preparing the table for dinner, which was pork chops and mashed potatoes. Melanie did not want to bring up anything that could upset KJ. She was concerned about my job, therefore she did not ask the question I expected. I suggested we go see a movie together, KJ replied. I'm heading to the mall to meet my friends. Sorry, Father, you and Mom will have to watch a movie on your own. That is okay. Kay, I only wanted to suggest it. I replied I should get going. I'll meet them at 7:30, she said. Have a lovely night. Do you need money? Yes. I spoilt her, and I intend to keep doing so. I have some if you want it. I'll use your credit card if that's acceptable. Of sure, sweetheart. Thank you, Dad. KJ left the table and quickly walked out the door. Melanie commented, You really spoil her. Yes, I do, and I will keep doing so. She'll be leaving for college next year, and I won't see her very much. So I talked about marrying again today. She claimed Jack came home upset yesterday night. He's concerned about his work. Can you mention anything positive about him to your boss? Perhaps he can speak with Jack's employer. They've been great buddies since they arrived here from California. I had to remain cool when I heard that. A true friend would not betray his friend's wife. I figured I'd talk to Brad on Monday. I did not specify what I intended to discuss with him. Hopefully, Jack would be unemployed before Thanksgiving. "So, would you like to see a movie or not?" I asked. "Yes, but we should visit the inexpensive theater," she said, "at least until your job situation improves." "Sure. Grab your coat." This was my approach of spending time with her without talking too much. We ended up watching Cameron Diaz's movie, The Other Woman. I smiled. I've liked practically every film she's appeared in. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I sense a connection. Melanie inquired what I thought of the film. I said, "I really like Cameron Diaz movies." "Aside than that, what did you think?" she asked. I thought that was a little difficult to believe. I don't see how a woman could become acquainted with two other ladies who were connected with her husband. A man would strongly despise other males, especially if they knew his wife was married. Even if they didn't know, he would be angry. His real frustration would be with his wife. If it was just one person, and it happened once or twice, he would consider forgiving her, but the trust would remain broken. He often wondered who she was with when she was late, had to work late, or went out with pals. He would even worry if she had to leave for work. She remained quiet for a minute. "But what they did to him was humorous, right?" I assumed she was trying to divert the subject. "Yeah. What happened was probably justified. I believe the cheater received what he deserved. On Sunday morning, it was only KJ. I'm getting ready for church again." Melanie decided not to go again. We had a fantastic time together. I'll admit that I didn't pay attention during the sermon. My thoughts were elsewhere. Following the service, KJ asked me, "Are you okay, Dad?" "You did not appear to pay attention at all. I have a lot on my mind, KJ," I replied, not telling her the whole truth. "There are some things going on at work that worry me. I might have to travel for work in the next weeks, so I hope it's nothing serious. I know you enjoy that work. Do not worry about it, KJ. Simply enjoy your senior year and keep your grades up, if you want to get into Cornell University." When we returned from church, dinner was ready. Grilled fish with all sides. We ate. And KJ Melanie did the majority of the talking. I didn't say much since I was simply not in the mood. "Are you all right, honey?" Melanie inquired, observing that I was quiet. I said, "I'm just thinking about work and what I need to do." "Perhaps you should prepare a CV," she advised. "I don't have much of a resume." "Just one job," I said. "But you do so much there," she explained. "Yeah, I suppose so." After we finished dining, I loaded my dishes into the dishwasher and started to rake the leaves again. I enjoy spending time outside, but it may be time-consuming. I believe my future home will be a condo where someone else can take care of the leaves. I walked upstairs and changed into my Cornell College sweatpants, hoping they might remind Melanie of the good times we had when we were younger. Perhaps it would make her feel bad about what she was doing to us. If she came to me right now, will I be able to forgive her and remain married? I honestly didn't know. One thought kept hammering me. Why is she so close to Jack, while I keep seeking for her attention? I have not felt close to her since August. I went outside to rake leaves. It gave me time to contemplate. If she contacted me before Thanksgiving, I would forgive her. But things would have to alter. I would like to know why this happened. Our relationship would need to change dramatically, and she would have to work hard to regain my trust. After a few hours, I had piled up an additional 15 bags of leaves by the curb. I returned inside and proceeded to my room to change. Melanie yelled out to me, "I'm going to the store." "Do you need anything?" I whispered to myself, simply a good wife. I responded, "No thanks." Returned to her. After she had left, I went to the basement to check my laptop. I could hear Melanie on the phone. "Hello, Jack. How are you doing today? Just thinking about you." "Oh, yes. Definitely that and more." "Yes. They are in church." "No. They'll be back shortly. There's no time for that." I miss you too. How are you doing? Are you truly worried? No. Kurt doesn't appear worried. I can't help but worry, though. I'm not sure what we would do if he lost his job. So, what is your plan? That sounds great. I'll encourage Kurt to create a resume, but it will only include one job, which may not be sufficient. Yes, I will have him mention you as a reference. I believe I hear the garage door. I will talk to you later. Bye. So Jack was concerned about his job, but he also had time to think about my wife. Was my marriage over? Had we reached the end? Almost 20 years passed with nothing to show for it. No, it was not true. Our daughter, KJ, was our proof. Just thinking about her made it worthwhile. On Monday morning, I was in the office talking to some of the women who work with our sales team. Have you met Di, the new ABC salesperson? They all agreed and seemed to like him. A few people said they were glad we got a new one because the previous one made them uncomfortable. I told them to report anything inappropriate from Mr. Anderson to Brad and not to be afraid to speak out in the future. Later, I called the bank and learned that I needed to sign some documents. In 3 weeks, I would have my equity loan approved. I was surprised at how much my house was worth. Even in a slow housing market, I purchased it during a previous slow market, so I still had good equity. Later that morning, I asked to see Brad again. He said, "Come right in, Kurt." Thank you, Brad. So, how are things at home? I said. Not better. Well, I have to tell you that some of the workplace women approached me first thing today. They were relieved that they wouldn't have to see Mr. Anderson again. They mentioned some of his comments that made them uneasy. I told them to notify me immediately if someone made them feel that way in the future. I am sorry they have to cope with it, I added. We won't have to worry any longer. I informed the owner, and he stated Mr. Anderson will be let go today. I even mentioned that we might have additional work for him shortly. I grinned slightly at that. I didn't want to hurt Mary, but she was already suffering due to her husband, even if she didn't realize it. Hello, Brad. Can we chat about my job? I inquired whether you were quitting. He responded, shocked. I'd like to transfer to the facility in London, Ontario, or perhaps the one in New Jersey. Ontario is my first pick. Once my divorce is finalized, I'd be happy to return if you want me. Kurt, I believe I can make this happen. I just need you back here as soon as possible. I chose London because I was unsure whether I would have to pay alimony. Mary could have a more difficult time claiming it if I were in another nation. Also, Brad, I want my last day to be December 15th. I would like to use my 4 weeks of vacation and 10 personal days. I want the court to know that I am not working. Please do not do anything incorrect. If I have to get fired and then recruited again in London, I am fine with that. I might lose my seniority, but that's okay. Melanie would need to find another work. After 18 years, I wasn't sure if her degree would benefit her. Human resource management has seen significant changes. This would be restitution for everything: chlamydia and divorce. Now, who is truly clueless? When I returned to my office, I called Ben in New Jersey to inquire about Cornell University. He claimed everything was already in the works and she should receive her acceptance letter in a few weeks. Great. One more item off my list. I called Cornell and wanted to speak with the Dean of Admissions. They contacted me right soon. I told him my daughter wanted to enroll there and asked if I could pay for her tuition, room, board, and books in advance. He sounded happy and replied, "Sure. Once she is approved, we will calculate the total for you." I thanked him and shared my contact information. Another assignment completed. I decided not to inform Brad about my Thanksgiving plans right away. I might spend that time visiting the plant and looking for a place to live. I called my lawyer and told him that if I went ahead with the divorce, I wanted Mary to be served on December 20th in the afternoon at my home. I wondered if I could be so specific. I knew it was a Saturday and would pay extra if necessary. He assured me that they could accomplish it if I told him. 1 week ahead. I then contacted a florist. I needed to know whether I could schedule a delivery on December 20th at a specific hour. "Can you guarantee it?" I asked. "Yes, we can accomplish that. We only need the address and at least 3 days' notice. There will be an additional charge because this is a special delivery." "That's okay," I said, telling them I'd call at the beginning of the week if I decided to go ahead. I still wasn't convinced I could go back. Could we make it right? Thanksgiving weekend might be an appropriate time to make a decision. I inquired whether I wanted 17 red roses and 1 black rose. "How much time will you need to prepare them?" "Just 1 week." They asked if I could put them in an 8.5 by 11-inch box. They stated that it wasn't a typical flower box, but that they could dress up a box that holds a ream of paper to make it look less like a paper box. If that works for me? "Sure, thank you. I'll call you next month with all the information." That was one item off my checklist. I had to wait until December 20th to send the DVD to Mary for Christmas Day. I want to email Jack a photo of himself with the other individual, hoping he enjoys his surprise. For Melanie, I wanted to make a photo album filled with happy memories from our time together. I realize I sound cruel, but I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had lost. I should chat to KJ about visiting Cornell University to explore the campus. I knew she'd miss her grandparents, but if I'm correct, they'd be preoccupied with Melanie. I needed to inform KJ we were going at 4 p.m. on December 20th, but not to tell her mother. I suppose I should wait until after Thanksgiving to tell her that the weekend would be a major test for our marriage. Will it be an opportunity to rebuild, or would it break us apart during lunch? I spoke with Brad again, asking if I may leave for the rest of the day. He replied, "Sure, see you in the morning." I'd truly miss working with him. I hoped I might return to work with him shortly. Melanie was not present when I arrived home. I was curious if she was at work or with someone else. I walked downstairs to check the computer. There were no logged calls, therefore she may have been at work. I felt that now was a good time to sort through my belongings, the things we all keep thinking we'll need someday. I started with the file cabinet. She wouldn't notice if I went through all of the old tax paperwork and manuals for items we no longer needed. I was able to clear up almost 3 drawers of rubbish. I put off crucial paperwork, such as house documents, large appliances, and medical bills. I'd look at them later. Much of that would end up in Melanie's remembrance photo album. I was clearing out nearly 2 decades of marriage and throwing it all away. Next, I discovered shoeboxes loaded with our photos, at least the ones taken before we had digital cameras. I put them all in the filing cabinet so they'd be together when I started the process. I'd also have to go through the images on our computer and print copies, or I could download them and have them printed on excellent paper. I wanted to make it appear decent, right? So I decided to go to the garage and organize my tools. I figured Melanie wouldn't notice. I packed the tools into boxes and stored them in the basement. When it came time to relocate my belongings, I'd have to carry everything up the stairs, out of the garage, and into my car. Around 4:30, I decided it would be wonderful to cook some steaks. It was freezing outside, but I enjoy steak fresh off the grill. I also fried corn on the cob and asparagus. I baked 3 potatoes in the oven, and Melanie and CJ arrived home at 5:30. "Did you make dinner?" "What time did you arrive home?" Melanie asked me. "It was slow at work, so I left early," I explained. I knew this would make Melanie more concerned. We sat down to dine when Melanie announced, "I received a call from Mary. Jack lost his job today." Did he lose his job? More like was fired. I thought, that's terrible. What will he do now? I told him he should send out his CV and hunt for another employment. She responded. I said, "Good thing Mary has a job," hoping to increase her tension a little. "Are you confident in your company's stability? You mentioned it was slow." She inquired, looking concerned. "As far as I know, everything is good," I said. We completed dinner with KJ and discussed her life. I like listening to her, even if it was normal teenage stuff. I'd miss it when I was gone. I aimed to call her frequently. The next few days passed with no changes and indeed no intimacy. That was good, as I didn't want to take any chances. It was Thursday, a week before Thanksgiving. Melanie and I were eating supper together, KJ said. Mom? Dad? Yes, Kelly, Melanie responded. Kelly asked if I could join her family on a ski trip to Colorado over Thanksgiving weekend. When would you leave? I asked. She looked shy and said, Wednesday afternoon, right after the half-day at school. Melanie, are your parents coming up for Thanksgiving this year? No. They are only coming the Saturday before Christmas and will remain for a week. She responded, Well, my parents will be spending time with my youngest brother and his new baby, so it's fine with me if it's okay with your mother. I asked, Mom, is it okay? KJ asked. Yeah, I suppose your father and I will spend Thanksgiving by ourselves. It will be useful practice when you depart for college next September, Melanie said. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Dad. I will call Kelly and inform her after dinner. KJ said cheerfully. I suppose we will have to get used to being on our own. Melanie, I murmured, gazing at my wife. She had no idea how alone she would be next year if she didn't speak up now. But I was wondering if Mary might divorce Jack. If she does, perhaps Melanie will end up with Jack. The rest of dinner was spent with KJ. They discussed their travel plans, including where they would stay and what they would do. Sometimes women can speak for hours without anyone else saying anything. It sounded enjoyable, though. It reminded me that I had yet to see Colorado's Capitol building. I needed to start working toward my own ambitions. The next morning, I decided to talk to Brad. He was someone I could trust. I walked into his office around 2:00. Brad, I want to talk about Thanksgiving weekend. Are you and your family traveling anywhere? Do you need a couple more days off? He asked. No, it is the opposite. KJ is going skiing in Colorado for the weekend with some friends and relatives. I want to give Melanie enough space to make mistakes, but not for real. I'd want to have an emergency at the New Jersey facility that will keep me away from Thursday evening until Monday afternoon. That should be enough time for her and Jack to meet up. I believe it will be in my home, so I'll have proof. Wow. Do you honestly think you two can't work it out? He said. If she tells the truth before Thanksgiving, there is a chance. If not, and if she does as I expect, then it'll be over. But the crying. I said this jokingly, but it was more accurate than I cared to acknowledge. So what do you need from me? Brad asked. I need you to phone me on Thanksgiving afternoon and let me know I have a flight at 7 p.m. I'll make sure Melanie answers the phone so she believes it's real. Okay, that's something I can do. What if she reveals the truth before then? I'll say I can't go. I have a wife I need to be with. That would be true. I reasoned that if she did come clean, it would take the entire weekend to resolve the situation. As I drove home for the weekend, a part of me hoped she would be honest. I adored her and didn't want to lose what we once had. I pondered about it all day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I wasn't really communicative. On Sunday night, I recommended to KJ Melanie stated that since KJ would be gone on Wednesday, therefore we should all go out to supper on Tuesday night. That sounds like an excellent concept, KJ said. I felt a little awful about missing Thanksgiving. I'll try to make a reservation at the park, I explained. There was an excellent restaurant in West Bloomfield. A man contemplating his final meal deserves to enjoy it, right? Doesn't a problematic marriage deserve the same? On Monday, I called the restaurant early and was assured there was an opening. The hostess stated that Wednesday night was full, but tomorrow at 7:30 was available. I texted Melanie and KJ to let them know we were scheduled for 7 p.m. tomorrow. KJ responded quickly, but Melanie did not respond until approximately 3 p.m. I wondered what she was doing now that Jack was unemployed. Monday night's events were predictable. Melanie urged Jack to put me as a reference on his employment application. Sure, I'll take calls from his prospective employers, I replied. She swiftly said, Mary would greatly appreciate it. I looked forward to receiving their calls. I was prepared to offer my thoughts on what a player he is. On Tuesday night, we enjoyed a great meal. Melanie checked the menu and inquired, "Can we afford this?" Of course, I made good money. It is acceptable to indulge in self-care on occasion. I mentioned that we spent an hour talking about happy times, trips, vehicles, sports, and school. It felt good to remember the past. If this didn't motivate Melanie to be honest, I'm not sure what would. When we arrived home, I finished packing. I took everything to Kelly's apartment so they could go soon after school. I thanked Mr. Barons for taking KJ. "I'm with them. Can I pay for her stay?" I asked. "She is sharing a room with Kelly. There is no extra expense. We wouldn't consider taking your money." He said, "It's our gift." "Well, thank you. I hope to return the favor someday." I said, "Don't think about it." He spoke truly. On my way home, I gave her a couple $100 and asked her to phone me when she got back so I could pick her up. I had some news to share. Then she became inquisitive and asked, "Tell me now." "No, you'll find out when you go back. Please pledge to call me." I reminded her. "Okay, Dad?" "Thank you, KJ. You are a fantastic daughter. Simply behave when in Colorado." "I will, Dad. I know you will." Then she said something that demonstrated how intelligent she was. "I hope whatever's been bothering you gets better soon." She kissed my cheek. We parked the car in the garage, got out, and she went to bed. I stayed up a little longer, just thinking, before ultimately going to bed. Melanie was already sleeping. I was relieved she could rest. In contrast, I would have difficulty falling asleep again. Wednesday at work felt like any other office the day before Thanksgiving. Work was slow. Everyone wanted to begin their long weekend early. Half of the office had left by noon. Because I was in support, I stayed till 4. I got home before Melanie and proceeded to check the laptop. Mary had come over to talk with her about Jack. She was upset because Jack was depressed and refused to do anything, not even get near to her. A job is very important to a man. It provides him with a sense of worth. He will be okay once he finds a new career, I heard Melanie say. "Did you talk to Kurt about assisting him?" Mary asked. He claimed he would provide a reference. Melanie said, "That should help." They chatted more, but I wasn't paying attention. I was wondering how Melanie could sit there and console Mary while disguising her relationship with Jack. Later, I received a call from Jack. "Oh, hello, Jack." "Yes, Mary came over to talk. She's not sure what's going on. Just like Kurt. Kaylee will be gone till Sunday. I will try to catch up with you this weekend. I believe Kurt will need to go to the workplace for a bit, as he always does. I'll text you once I know more. I'll talk to you later. I will give you as much time as you need," I said to myself. On Thanksgiving, we had a great lunch. It wasn't too big, but it was satisfactory. We ate turkey, sweet potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and pumpkin pie. Around 2 Brad called. I let Melanie answer the phone because it was on the kitchen countertop. "Hello? This is Kurt's phone." "Oh, hello, Mr. Bilson. Sure, I will get him. He's just in another room." "Hello, Bradley. How are you doing on this Thanksgiving Day? So, here's your call. My wife found it unusual to bother you on Thanksgiving. So, what's up? Do you need me in New Jersey?" I spoke a little louder tonight. "Really? On Thanksgiving?" "Hot there's at the Detroit Metro." "Yes, I will be there." "Honey, Brad needs me to fly to New Jersey tonight. They're having some troubles and their supervisor is on vacation." "Why are they asking you to go tonight?" she asked. "They have an order to complete by Monday a.m. They will labor this weekend to finish it by Sunday night. I need to make sure everything is ready for Monday morning. I also have to be at the GM facility to ensure that the parts are correct for the customer. It's known as just-in-time inventory. If they cease working because we don't have the necessary parts, we may lose a lot of money. That is exactly how car companies operate. I need to get ready to go. I need to be at the airport by 5 Brau, I said as I hurried down the stairs to retrieve my suitcase. I grabbed my suitcase and made sure my laptop was ready. I hid it neatly and then returned upstairs. "Do you know where my toiletry kit is?" I asked Melanie. "I last saw it in the linen closet behind the shampoo." She responded, "Thank you, honey." "What would I do without you?" I replied, trying to hide my sarcasm. I went upstairs with my suitcase. I offer both good and business casual clothing. I could get dirty. Melanie was aware that I frequently got filthy at work. I packed my underwear, socks, shoes, shorts, swimming trunks for the hotel, t-shirts, and workout gear. I also brought a suit, assuming I would need it for a few days. Melanie stepped in and noticed all of the clothes on the bed. "Do you really need all that clothing? I never know what I will need. They might ask me to meet with the GM executives," I explained. "I cannot believe you have to go on Thanksgiving. I need to be to the plant at 6 a.m. I'd prefer not to have to catch a flight at 2 in the morning." "Well, I will miss you," she said. I turned to face her. The words were pleasant, but her expression did not match them. If Melanie accomplished what I expected, I suppose those were simply words. I threw my suitcase into the trunk of the automobile. Then I walked back inside and asked Melanie if she wanted to drive me or if I should park my car for a while. "If you drive me, you will have to pick me up on Monday afternoon," I said. She considered for a moment. I could tell she was thinking, "I don't like driving in Detroit traffic, especially to the airport, but if I drive him, he won't have a car and will be unable to return home whenever he wants." "I will drive you. Honey, it is Thanksgiving. I will miss you when you are gone. This will give me a little extra time with you." Wow, she was so sweet, I thought. "Okay, we should leave in approximately an hour. What would you like to do until then?" I stared at her hopefully. "We don't have time for that," she responded. "Maybe when you come back." Or perhaps not. I thought to myself. "Okay, let's just relax," I said as I took a beer from the refrigerator. I sat down on the couch and sipped. She also took one and sat in the chair across from me. "I'm sorry I have to leave, honey, but it's vital," I said. "I know, honey. I'll be alone all weekend. Call Mary. Go watch a movie or something. She probably should forget about Jack losing his job. Tell her you're going to buy dinner." "Yes, I might do that." She paused. "Will you help at the shelter again this Saturday?" "Yes. They are making a huge push for adoptions till the end of this year. That wraps up Saturday." "Are you going Black Friday shopping tomorrow morning?" "No, I don't want to cope with the chaos," she replied. I suggested curling up with a nice book. "Yeah, I'll stay busy," she said. I thought she would. On the way to the airport, we made small chat. "Please drop me off in front." "Honey," I said. She pulled to the curb. I stepped out, grabbed my luggage and garment bag from the trunk, and closed it. I went around to the driver's side. She hadn't even reached out to give me a parting hug. I kissed her hastily and added, "I'll call you when I arrive at my hotel." "Okay. Have a safe trip," she said. She drove slowly away. I wondered if she had noticed. We did not say, "I love you." I walked into the terminal and waited in the lobby for about 15 minutes, hoping she would return, but she did not. I proceeded to the automobile rental desk and rented a vehicle for 4 days. The costs were considerable, but I had no alternative. I got in the car, loaded my baggage, and drove to a hotel not far from home. I wanted to monitor the house and see when she departed. Who came over? I couldn't sit outside all day, so I decided to drive by now. After that, the rental car looked like any other car. I didn't want to attract notice. I drove by at roughly 9 p.m. There were no cars outside, and the lights were turned on. I noticed that the television was on inside. I suppose Jack couldn't abandon his wife, child, and family on Thanksgiving. Maybe tomorrow, though. I returned to my hotel and waited until 10:04 to call Melanie. "Hello, I just got in. I'm going to bed now because I need to be at the plant by 6 a.m. "Okay, sweetheart, thank you for calling. I miss you," she responded. "I also miss you," I said. I genuinely missed her. The woman I fell in love with and married was not the person she had grown into. Friday morning, I slept in. I awoke around 9:30 a.m., feeling refreshed for the first time in weeks. I got up, showered, and put on my trousers, sweatshirt, and baseball cap. Around 10:15, I drove by the house. There was Jack's automobile, but it could have been Mary's. I decided to visit the bank where she works to see if she was present. I just wanted to see whether her car was there. And it was. That was it. Tomorrow, while Melanie is at work, I'll sneak in and obtain proof. I spent my day driving around Detroit. The city had issues, but some kind people were putting money back into it. It was slowly returning. I would miss this place, despite all of its flaws. That evening, I did not call Melanie to see if she wanted to talk. She could have reached out to me, but she did not. Saturday morning, I ate breakfast at a Denny's distance from my house so no one would see me. After that, I drove home, parked around the corner, and took a quiet walk into the backyard. I hope nobody saw me. I checked the garage to make sure her car was gone. Yes, it was. I slipped into the basement to examine the laptop. There it was, 3 previous days' bedroom videos. I quickly downloaded the material on a zip drive and returned to my car. When I arrived at the motel, I would look at the file. Then it struck me. How could I see it without a computer? So I drove to work. It was after midday and the place was vacant. I opened the door with my key, went inside, and then shut it behind me. Then I headed to my office. I turned on my computer, plugged in the zip drive, and opened the file. My wife walked in wearing a teddy. The teddy I bought for her on our 15th anniversary, but she had never worn it for me. Anger bubbled within me. Jack was removing his garments swiftly. "Wow, you look amazing in that. Have you bought it for me?" He said no. "Kurt bought it for me a few years ago, but I've never worn it," she responded. "Why not?" Jack inquired. "Because I don't enjoy getting intimate with Kurt." Jack appeared confused. "But I enjoy being intimate with you," she said. That struck me hard. What went wrong with our intimacy? I remember when we were first dating. She was wild. Our honeymoon was entirely about us. We ordered room service for nearly every meal. We were intimate even during our first year, every day, often more than once. We were always together, even when she was pregnant. But after KJ was born, and everything changed. I understand that having a new baby takes up a lot of your time, and all you want to do is rest when you can. But once CJ was on a regular sleep schedule, I felt like things never improved. I began to wonder what I had done to make her no longer want to be around me. When I looked at the screen, I saw something unexpected. They were together. He was on top of her, moving quickly. "Isn't he treating you like this?" he asked. "Never," she responded loudly. Then he flipped her over, placing her on her hands and knees. I had seen this before with someone else he was with. He was being rough with her, and she was moaning and crying out. Harder, harder, and he did. She let out a loud cry. I hadn't heard that from her in years. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. He slowed down and started to touch her in a way that made her respond. "Oh yeah," she said. "Let me get something." She reached for a bottle from the nightstand. It was half full. They must have done this before. She put some on her finger and touched herself. "Okay, I'm ready," she said. I couldn't believe what I saw. I had 3 separate views of her. I didn't want to watch anymore. I halted the playback, printed out 2 copies of all the views, and closed the program. I took out the USB disc and collected the images from the printer. I thought Mary would be interested in these photographs. I exited my office and looked around the factory. I would talk to Brad on Monday about moving to a new place. I would miss this factory. It has been a part of my life for so long. As I walked outdoors, I thought of Melanie. She didn't want to be close to me, but she wanted him to treat her like she was nothing. I wasn't sure how to deal with that. I went to the motel and sat in the darkness for a time. After an hour, I went into a store and purchased a case of beer. When I returned to the hotel, I just started drinking. I awoke on Sunday to find empty beer cans all about me. I had a severe headache. I got up, used the restroom, and drank some water before returning to bed. I awoke again and realized it was 2 p.m. I needed a shower. I felt disgusted. I had a long shower and shaved. I looked considerably better, but I still felt terrible on the inside. My marriage did not turn out to be what I expected. The only positive thing in my life was Cage. Cage would call me shortly. I needed to get some food. I had not eaten since Denny's the day before. I went back there again, not wanting anyone to notice me. I needed to remain incognito for one more day. I had to consider alternative plans. 2 by now. Melanie might have chlamydia. Was it enough vengeance? As I ate my food, I was also thinking about divorce. I realized I was hungry. I wanted to end my marriage in a way that would hurt her deeply. I would tell her that I wanted to spend Christmas with just the 3 of us on Saturday before her parents arrived. This way, we could spend the holiday together without anyone getting in the way. I wanted to make a scrapbook full of memories from our years together. The final image would come in a package containing 17 red roses and 1 black rose. 17 years of excellent marriage and 1 year of bad. Inside the box, with the roses, I would offer a collage of photos from this weekend. Then I'd serve her with divorce papers. If I timed it correctly, her parents would arrive just as I was leaving. I pondered how she would inform them while I was making these plans. KJ called. "Hello, KJ." I said hello to Dad. "When I spoke with Mom last night, she told me you had to leave town. Should I call her to come pick me up?" she asked. "No, honey, I will pick you up. Are you at the airport or in the Barrens?" I responded. "I just got off a plane. I am waiting for my bags." "What is happening on, Dad?" "I will explain everything once I get you. Don't tell your mother anything, okay? Please trust me." "You know I trust you, Father." "Okay. I'll be there in approximately half an hour." "Sure. Text me when you get here and I'll come out." I scooped her up from the curb. She appeared worried. "Okay. What is wrong? Your mother is not aware of it yet." "But we're getting divorced," I informed her. "What?" she yelled. "KJ. Remember how you said before you left that I hadn't felt well in about a month? Do you truly notice things? Are you sick?" she inquired, concerned. "No, KJ, I am not sick. But telling you this hurts me. We will go through this together. On Halloween, I discovered that your mother had been unfaithful." "What?" "Yes. It has been going on since at least July 4th. I've got proof, but let's just say I can't stay with her. She did things that made it impossible for me to maintain my dignity. However, I need you to pretend with me until December 20th. That's when I'll inform her. Grandma and Grandpa will be here to help her cope. Do you believe you can do it?" "Well, I'm not at home very much, so I guess I can play along." "Are you sure you can't work it out?" "No, sweetheart. I'm sorry for putting this on you, but I believed you needed to know the truth. I had a feeling something was up with you, but I assumed it was work-related." "I'm very sorry, Father." "Does she know? Do you know?" "No. She assumes I have no idea. I was feeling quite bad up until Halloween. This is why I said I had a migraine. Making quotation marks with my fingertips. "Who is it? Is this anybody I know?" she asked. "I suppose it will come out regardless, but you have to swear not to say anything or hint about it, okay?" "Sure, Dad. It's Jack Anderson." "Wow. Does Mrs. Anderson know yet?" "Not yet," I said. "Wow. Jasmine is going to be really upset. She thinks the world of her father." "Of course she does, KJ." "No, Dad. She is totally smitten with him. That is one of the reasons she has decided to attend Wayne State. She prefers to stay at home with him. I didn't realize that. This is likely to cause her significant pain. You must assist her through this." I said, "I don't believe she'll want my aid." "Dad, it's my mother. He's with us." "Oh, right. Maybe Mr. Anderson and your mother care about each other. I stated I'd have her served shortly after our Christmas together." I told her. Wow, that's kind of mean, Dad. I know, KJ, but I'd like to do this by the end of the year. I need to do it for my own pride, too. There was a prolonged pause. Now I've got some wonderful news, I replied with a smile. How can there be good news? She said, I could really use some after that bad news. Within the next 2 weeks, you will get a letter stating that you have been accepted to Cornell. What? Are you certain? Your father is well connected. I did not get you in. You accomplished it yourself. I only recently learned about it, but I've already made arrangements to pay for 4 years of tuition, lodging and board, books, and other expenses. How do you do all of that? She asked. This is where my connections come in. Don't worry about it, KJ. I have it all figured out. Simply focus on earning high marks and pursuing something you enjoy. I told you that I want to be an engineer, just like you. Dad? Now, who is fascinated with her father? I was joking. Oh, I love you, Dad. Okay, keep on to this pleasant sensation for the next 3 weeks. Do not let your mother believe anything is wrong, I replied strongly. By the way, would it be too much if I took you to the campus on December 20th? You would miss spending time with your grandparents. That sounds excellent, Father. I'm not sure I want to be around Mom when you tell her the news. Anyway, I did not want Melanie to see me, so I parked my rental car at the end of the driveway. KJ. As I pulled away, she got out, gathered her belongings, and hurried to the house. Melanie gave her a hug. KJ. She did an excellent job playing her part. Did every woman deserve an award? Melanie seems to have taken advantage of me. On Monday, I checked out of my room. Then I talked to the lawyer. Everything was set. The papers will be handed on the 20th. I called the florist and asked for same-day delivery. They informed me that it was already on their calendar. I said that I wanted to put a photograph on the box's lid and asked if I might come by in the afternoon, the day before, to check on things. I visualized 17 roses in a circle with a black rose open in the center. The card would read 17. Good one and awful. Take a look under the lid. I couldn't wait to see her expression when she opened it. Perhaps I could set up a camera near the front door to record it. I needed to know when her parents were traveling in so I could coordinate with the florist and the process server. I assumed I would add an hour after their flight landed. That should give them enough time to collect their belongings, rent a car, and drive to our house. That afternoon, I returned the rented car and texted Melanie. She responded, Okay, I'll leave now to come get you. I was wondering if she would mention that I hadn't called since Thursday night. She may have also reached out to me. I did not feel horrible about it. On our way home, I asked if we could just order Chinese cuisine for dinner. Or have you already planned something? Chinese is fine. That should be beneficial for Kaylee. She's got some fantastic news for you, she said. What is it? I asked. I'll let her tell you, she said. I cannot wait. I said that we picked up Chinese and arrived home at 6:30. I walked in the door and KJ. I almost got knocked over. KJ, you cannot welcome your father like that. You are not old, Dad. You're only 40, so why was I astonished at the door? I laughed. I got in, and I received my acceptance letter today. Cornell, she shouted. That is wonderful. KJ, you will be attending our school, I remarked, staring at Melanie. No, Dad. Cornell University, I was shocked. Wow. They are one of the best engineering colleges in the Northeast. When you said you were applying to Cornell, I assumed you meant our Cornell. I cast another peek at Melanie. Now I feel silly ordering Chinese for a celebration supper. Oh, Dad, you know I adore Chinese, KJ said. For some reason, I recalled a Monty Python joke. It's funny how the mind works sometimes. CJ's excitement brightened my night. I had been apprehensive about spending the evening with my soon-to-be ex-wife, KJ. Clearly, they wanted to keep things cheery. I am grateful for the great person my daughter is becoming. Melanie deserves the majority of credit for that. She was the person who raised her. At 8 p.m., I said goodnight. I was exhausted and went to bed around 10:00. Melanie got into bed and accidentally woke me up. I grumbled and turned to face my stomach, wondering if she felt awful about it. Fortunately, the rest of the week returned to normal. We both remained the same. It had been nearly 4 months. I could withstand another 2.5 weeks, so I went to work on Tuesday and spoke with Brad. I planned to take a vacation today and tomorrow. I replied I had a lot to do. He responded, "Okay, let me know if you need assistance." I went home and took out all of the pictures and cards. I had birthday, Christmas, and anniversary cards, baby photos, and even hospital bills. I thought these would be a lovely Christmas present for Melanie. She might enjoy the pleasant memories. Then I'd surprise her with flowers, a collage photo, and the divorce papers. The first item in the photo album would be the jewelry store's receipt. $4,000 was a large sum of money back then, and it still is, but it feels different now. Next, I wanted to include some honeymoon photos. We visited Niagara Falls but did not snap many shots because we spent most of our time in our hotel room. Perhaps KJ. I plan to visit Canada someday. Melanie will not be with us then. The next shot in the album would be of our first flat. We didn't stay there long because we needed to buy a house. We learned out we were having KJ. Then I had photos from our first vacation. We drove to California to visit her relatives. It was a lengthy trip, but I like spending time with my new bride. We stopped at the Grand Canyon, saw the lights of Las Vegas, drove through Death Valley, and arrived at her parents' home 4 days later. They flew in on December 20th of this year, just in time for the surprise in this photo album. I recall our first vacation somewhere along the voyage across America, KJ. It was a fantastic trip. I wished I could return to the moment when we were happy together. Next, I wanted to include some photos of Melanie during her pregnancy. She was petite but had a large belly. I like seeing her like that. She was so kind and needed me, and I treasured every second she was carrying our baby. I also wanted to include the hospital bill. Our insurance covered the most of it, but we did incur some additional fees. I did not mind. It was worthwhile to bring our baby into this world. As I reviewed the bills, I realized there were numerous charges. Then I noticed something that surprised me. A separate bill dated August 8th included a fee for a tubal ligation. That was 1 month before KJ was born. Why? Who asked for it? What happened? I needed to find out. I couldn't go to the doctor and inquire. She died in a vehicle crash 15 years ago. Who could help me? There were 2 more doctors in our office. Perhaps one of them might explain it. I took the bill, got into my car, and proceeded to the Obgyn office. Melanie continued to go to the same place even after her doctor died. I stepped in quietly and asked to talk with the billing specialist. An elderly woman, maybe approximately 60 years old, approached me. I asked if we might look at some older bills. Sure. She said, "Give me your wife's file. Everyone should be in there. First, I need to see if you are permitted to see them. Can you show me your driver's license?" I showed it to her, and she located the document. "Allow me to see my wife's medical information." We had signed documents for each other due to privacy concerns. Fortunately, we were prepared in case there was an issue, but this felt like a major issue. "Can we see the bills from when she had Kaylee Jane?" I asked. "Of course," she responded. "These will be at the back of the file. We put the newer ones up front." She discovered the bills for the delivery. I mentioned that after around 10 hours of labor, they decided to perform a C-section. She hadn't turned yet, so they were concerned. That's what they told me as I waited. The billing nurse went through the bills and gasped. "What did you find?" I asked. "Well, Mr. Van Hall, you should discuss this with your wife," she said. "Allow me to see the papers. I have the right to see them, and please make copies for me, if I asked." I took the paperwork from her. There it was. The C-section and operation to prevent future pregnancies were planned a month before they were performed. My wife asked for it. "I need copies of all of this paperwork. I'll come back in 2 hours to retrieve them," I murmured as I stood to leave. "Okay, sir. I will have them ready for you." I could not believe it. For more than 17 years, it had been a lie. She knew I wanted another child. I wanted a boy. but I'd adore a girl just as much. She snatched that opportunity away from me. I was infuriated. I didn't want to drive angry. I might do something I regret. So I started walking. I checked the time and realized I needed to be back by 4:30 to pick up the copies. I strolled around and tried to think. I had lost track of time. But at 4:30, I returned for the copies. They had them ready in a manila envelope at the front counter. I drove home and went directly to the basement. I knew I couldn't be with Melanie right now. I was too angry. I needed some room. I decided to return to the hotel and keep to myself for the next week. I would work during the day and then return to the motel. I went upstairs carrying a luggage. Melanie was in the kitchen. She had just arrived home. "Honey," I said, "I'll be on the road for the next week. The proprietors have asked me to check on the other plants and visit customers who have had problems in the last 6 months. So I guess Jack was correct. There are problems at your job. I told you so." She replied with a smirk. I headed upstairs. If I said anything, I'd probably burst. I needed to get out of there. I packed as many clothing as possible into my suitcase. I could purchase new socks and underwear later. I grabbed my toiletries and shut up my suitcase. I headed downstairs with KJ. I was just arriving home. "KJ, I stated I'd be gone for approximately a week. Call me if you need anything." She looked at me and saw that I was sad. "We'll miss you, Dad, but I'm confident you'll work things out." "Thank you, darling." I said this while hugging her. I recalled I needed some photos and paperwork, so I said, "Oh, I'll go downstairs to get my bag." I went downstairs, placed all of my photos and papers into my bag, and put my laptop away. I returned to KJ. I informed Melanie that I needed to be at the airport by 7. "I will leave my automobile in long-term parking. I will phone you once I arrive at the hotel." Then I stepped outside the front door. I drove to Detroit and reserved a place at an extended stay. America. It was a lovely room with a small kitchen. I could be here for a week. I put my clothes away and sat in the chair. I felt like everything in my life was coming apart. I was joyful just a month ago, with no idea what was going to happen. I sat there for a while. Melanie had scheduled a C-section to conceal her tubal ligation. She had planned this at least a month in advance. She faked to have contractions so she could go to the hospital on the day she had planned for the C-section. They made me wait in the waiting room for several hours. They wouldn't allow me enter. I could not believe it. I felt completely clueless. Should I go home to confront Melanie? I was aware that if I did, I might lose control. I had never hit a woman before, and I wasn't sure how I would react. I was quite irritated. I needed to calm down. I needed to keep with my plan, at least for the week. I wouldn't need to see her. I needed to speak with Brad first thing in the morning. I asked him to phone the plant manager in London. I thought I'd like to see that facility. I wanted to leave the nation. I did not want Melanie to find me. My telephone rang. I noticed it was KJ calling. I also observed that it was about 10:00. Wow, I'd been waiting there for about 4 hours. I answered the telephone. "Hello, KJ? I'm sorry I had to leave so quickly." "What happened?" "Dad, I could tell you were angry. You did not even hug Mom or wait for her to say anything. It's worse than I expected." "KJ, where are you? Can she hear you?" "No, Dad. I told her I needed to go to Kelly's to pick up something I'd forgotten." "I am in the car at the park. Where are you now?" "I'm staying at a downtown hotel near my workplace." "So, you're not leaving town?" she asked. She believed